People don't always see eye to eye with each other. Everyone has their own set of opinions and beliefs, and historically, humans have fought each other over this difference. Now, while we may be divided by land or belief, there's one thing that unites all of us, something buried deep inside the human DNA that makes us all on the same page. And that's our extreme dislike for Amy Schumer. God bless. Amy Schumer is like the common evil that unites the world. It's like in that anime Code Geass where Lelouch becomes the ultimate evil that the entire world rallies against, and then by the end of it, it brings everyone closer together. That's Amy Schumer, but in reality. Whenever she's present at like an award show or something, the entire internet, nay, the entire human race gets together and says, we just don't like her. She reminds us that we're not so different from each other after all. So why am I talking about Amy Schumer today? Well, it's because she was at the Oscars recently and decided to make the entire thing about her, about how she's now traumatized because of the Will Smith slap on Chris Rock. And I'm sure a lot of you are tired of hearing about this, but she just keeps fucking going. And it's making me sick to my stomach. It makes me want to puke and shit. This is of course a very stupid statement and just performative to put her name back in the news about how now she's a victim somehow. I don't think there's any world where Amy Schumer is right now sleeping with one eye open, just fearful that Will Smith, the boogeyman, is going to rappel through her window and slap her while she's asleep. But I'm going to set aside this stupid statement for a minute to talk about what really got my ass all grinded up, which is what she came forward with today. She bravely stepped foot in the Thunderdome today to reveal the jokes that were too edgy for TV. Her side-splitting comedy that was just too intense, and she had to cut them from her monologue. Just like Voldemort's name, she wasn't allowed to speak of these things, but she decided to tell one of these super stinkers anyway, which is horrible news for anyone with ears. Don't Look Up is the name of a movie? More like Don't Look Down, the barrel of Alec Baldwin's shotgun. It's incredible how she can't even accidentally almost say something entertaining. And this probably isn't even her own joke. She has a history of stealing jokes. She probably just saw this shit on Twitter and it had like 100 likes, so she said it's mine now. And it's still fucking stupid. None of it makes sense. Alec Baldwin wasn't even in Don't Look Up. The joke doesn't work. I don't care that it's edgy. Edgy jokes are fine. It's just this is so poorly done from top to bottom. Alec Baldwin is not in that movie, so it doesn't even make sense. It'd be like me saying Moonfall, more like Poonfall, because Amy Schumer's talking about her vagina again. It's just dog shit. Sex in the City, more like Amy, stop having sex with the whole city, we're tired of seeing you on stage. Or He-Man, more like help me man, I just had to listen to Amy Schumer tell another fucking awful joke and now I'm in need of medical assistance. I don't know why she would think it was a good idea to tell this joke after everyone told her not to tell it in the first place. They gave her a gift of shutting her up. Like, she didn't have to tell this joke. They were like, we're not allowing you to say it. We're putting the kibosh on it now. We're doing you a favor. And then she slaps them and all of us by telling this joke anyway. This whole situation is like if Amy and her friend were on like a walk and they approached this cliff and Amy didn't see it, but her friend did, so her friend reaches out to stop her from falling off the cliff, literally saving her life. But then Amy Schumer just blasts her hand away saying, don't tell me what to do, I'll walk where I want to walk, and then throws herself off the cliff. She then gave us a sneak peek at some other gut busters we missed from her here, some more of her comedic stylings. She said that she was also going to take aim at Joe Rogan and James Franco, but wasn't allowed to say any of that. But you can just come up and slap someone. That statement doesn't even make sense either, Amy. No one invited Will Smith to go up there and slap the shit out of Chris Rock. The man went up there and slapped the taste out of his mouth off script. The man had a full-blown Winter Soldier episode. It wasn't planned. You had a script that you were getting approved and everyone said these jokes just fucking suck. Don't tell them. It's not the same. She's always so incredibly desperate to put herself at the center of everything that ever happens, even when it doesn't make sense or even involve her in the slightest. She had a golden opportunity just to say nothing and everyone would have forgotten her miserable presence at the Oscars, but she just had to tell this awful joke and remind everyone why she was universally disliked as one of the worst comedians of our time. The only reason she ever even made it into the industry in the first place is because of getting a lucky spawn in life. She was born into a really rich and powerful family, and through leveraging those connections, she was able to make it to the big time. And it's one of the saddest stories in all of entertainment. But anyway, back to how traumatized Amy Schumer was from the slap. She said she's gonna need some time off to process it, and I think I speak for everyone in the world when I say, Amy, you take as much time as you need. If it's years, if it's forever even, god damn it, you take that time until you feel better about what happened. We will all understand. No matter how long it takes. No, it should take a very long time to recover from something like that. So, wishing you the best in that road to overcoming that experience at the Oscars, having to watch that, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah. This is a bit of an older story I want to cover today, but it's one that I still think of from time to time because of its absurdity. It's vintage. 2021, which in internet years is prehistoric basically. It's fallen out of everyone's consciousness, and I need to do my due diligence to put it back, because man oh man is it a weird one. So let's dive in. It all started in early 2021 when a young teenage girl started to receive really mean text messages from an anonymous troll, and she was getting cyberbullied through these messages for quite some time. Her boyfriend then started to get the same messages. They were extremely personal, they were extremely nasty, constantly telling her to kill herself, this and that. And the mother got really upset at this because obviously, who wouldn't? Her daughter is being harassed by some weirdo degenerate. As I imagine any good caring parent would do, they see this kind of behavior and they start rolling up their sleeves, giving them one of these, why I oughta when I find who's behind this. So she starts to launch an investigation and work collaboratively with authorities to find the culprit. Who's behind this? Could this be the work of the infamous hacker known as 4chan? And they went on a hunt to track this person down because it didn't stop, and it was tons of messages, hundreds of messages, over a year's worth of harassment and 349 pages worth of DMs with this shit. And eventually the FBI got involved in this case to figure out who's doing this because it was so personal and so targeted and mean that they really wanted to figure it out. And this is all attacking a minor, too. So it was like stalking a minor, just harassing, unrelenting. And eventually the investigation concludes that it was the mother that was sending these text messages. She was running it all through a VPN to try and avoid being tracked down. So she had a real nefarious scheme here where she would just keep telling her daughter to kill herself and insulting her and the boyfriend. There was even this subplot that arose where she started to blame another classmate that could have been behind it. So she started to try and frame another child for this. It was fucking wild. And keep in mind, the mother was the one working so closely with the authorities to, I guess, throw them off of her trail. So this whole thing was kind of like that SpongeBob meme where it's like Maniac on the loose and he's on the walkie-talkie with the Maniac poster behind him with his face on it. That was this case in real life.
70 Isabella County mom who catfished her own daughter for almost 2 years is going to prison. Kendra Licari was arrested in December for stalking her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend.
Now, I didn't mention a moment ago, but I will now, that it was more than just sending those really nasty messages. Apparently, Kendra Licari would even send her daughter doctored photos of herself. I guess, like, with really mean shit on it. It didn't go into detail, but I read one of the reports that it was more than just text. She would send photos, too. So I'm guessing she would, like, Photoshop shit with her daughter in there to, like, bully her further off of it. It's so baffling.
For nearly 2 years, she sent hundreds of harassing and obscene messages and pictures to the teens every day. It wasn't until the mother of the boyfriend and Licari herself went to police for help. That's when they discovered Licari was the one sending the messages. Police also found she tried to frame a third teen as the one sending those messages. Today in court, she was sentenced to up to 5 years in prison.
So she'll spend at least 19 months in prison for all of this. And what's even wilder is that there's still no explanation for why. What was her motive? Why would she do this? This is some huge fucking hater energy. She's waking up real early in the morning to have extra time to hate her own daughter. She would send up to 12 text messages a day, every day, all just shitting on her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. It doesn't seem like there's anything to gain out of this except for making your daughter scared and miserable and potentially traumatizing her, because her daughter is a very young teenager during all of this. So I can't imagine what her motivation was, and she's never explained or elaborated on what the plan was. So I've seen speculation that people thought this was maybe another like Munchausen by proxy situation. If anyone is familiar with like the Gypsy Rose case, you're probably familiar with that term. But I don't know if that would necessarily even apply here. I really don't know. Maybe it is the mom trying to like isolate the daughter somehow by making her afraid of all of her classmates, or maybe trying to push the boyfriend out of her life. The whole thing is just a giant fucking question mark of why would anyone ever do this? And she did this every day for over a year. This was part of her morning routine. Get a nice cup of joe and shit on your daughter. Why? Maybe a power thing? Like maybe she was bullied in high school, so now she's trying to, do the same to like take that back. She's like passing the torch to herself to be the bully now. I don't get it. No one really does. And she has not said why. At least not from what I've found. All you can find is speculation and theories on what the motive could possibly be.
Isabella County Prosecutor David Barbary said this is one of the most confusing and complicated cases he has had to deal with. Not only from the case itself, Kendra Licari harassing and catfishing her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend for more than a year, but also when it came to sentencing. When it comes to sentencing, they hope to let the victims have a say. But the two victims here, Licari's daughter, she's hoping for leniency. She didn't want to feel responsible for putting her mom in prison. The other victim, her boyfriend, their family wanted the book thrown at Licari.
That's another super fucked up component to all of this, because not only was the daughter the victim of this relentless harassment campaign from her own mother, but now her mother is going to be going away to prison because of all of it. So now she's going to be growing up without her mom around for quite some time. It's just a really sad situation. I don't know why the mom did this, and also why she refuses to elaborate on what she was fucking thinking. She openly admitted to all of it, and she apologized saying she doesn't want to hurt anybody else, but she still has never said why she did it in the first place and continued doing it for so long. It just, I don't understand. Maybe she was like, beta testing her shit talk for her League of Legends solo queue games, so she'd like use her daughter as a guinea pig. Like, let's see how my daughter reacts when I tell her this. Not enough tears. I'm gonna have to go harder. I need to make sure that all the dog shit players in my lobby feel really bad. I need to make sure my trash talk is S tier. But anyway, she pled guilty to 2 counts of stalking a minor, and she's going to prison for some time now. And it's just a really weird situation, obviously, but it merely makes you think. Your biggest hater, who exactly are they? It could be anyone. And don't give me any of that mumbo-jumbo baloney about how everyone loves you, you don't have haters. You do. I'll hit you with the cold water. Even if there was a perfect person that existed, they would have haters because they are perfect. They would hate them for that. So no matter what, I promise you there are people that don't like you. And who are they? This story makes you think. Makes you sit back and go, it really could be anyone. What if the person that's replying to all of your tweets saying awful things like, you're so short, why'd you end up so short, dummy, stupid face, greasy little goblin man? What if that person is actually my own mother? Or father? What if they're both in on it? What if they both have alt accounts where they're constantly spamming my shit, pointing out every insecurity that I could possibly ever have? Could be. You never know, as is clear here. So yeah, anyway, that's really about it. So yeah. I want to start this video off by celebrating something important that's a little unrelated to the overall topic of the video, but one that calls for celebration. So let's pump our fists and wiggle our fingers together as we say rest in peace to James Corden's Late Late Show. That's right, it's finally over. We've survived the bubonic plague of bad television. James Corden's show is off the air officially, and I also love that now we have like some classified documents finally releasing that confirms what we all knew. that nobody fucking watched James Corden's show. It was a colossal flop. It was losing $20 million a year apparently before they finally decided to take it behind the barn and put it down for good, just execute it. There is nobody in the world that likes James Corden. I've said it for years now. He's like one of the only unifying things our planet has to offer. We all have our differences, but somewhere embedded deep in our DNA is this common ground of disliking James Corden. And for some reason his shows existed for so fucking long now. It was always a mystery, and I thought maybe I was just boofing crazy pills and like he had huge fans, but clearly not. They were losing so much money on him, and now they finally decided to stop the bleeding. It's just such a breath of fresh air. Already the world looks more colorful and less gray now that the Late Late Show is dead and buried, just put 6 feet under in its coffin. No more carpool karaoke. I feel like the possibility for our species are limitless now. It's like in Gurren Lagann when humanity goes from living underground fucking cave-dwelling troglodytes to breaching into the surface world, and then they start evolving at a rapid rate. I feel like that's where we're at right now because carpool karaoke is no longer keeping us buried. You know, that was the single thing preventing us from reaching a Type 2 spacefaring civilization. It's so nice. Now let's get to the actual topic of today's video. Enough celebrating the end of the Late Late Show. I'm sure many of you have heard about this massive writers' strike that's going on right now, where the Writers Guild of America is protesting, so they've all stopped their work in the industry at the moment. There's a lot of reasons for it, but really the primary takeaways are they're not being fairly compensated for their work when it comes to streaming services. So right now they're paid a single fixed residual that aren't tied to viewer numbers and no additional payments that come through when the show shuffles between different streaming services. An example they give is one of the writers for Jane the Virgin is only receiving 1 to 2 cents for their residual checks, which is far from the norm or acceptable. And that's because streaming content has blown up recently, and for the industry itself, it's still pretty new. So they're not really getting the compensation that they should be, especially when compared to other aspects of the entertainment industry like normal movies or normal TV shows. So streaming is still in that weird gray area where they're getting face fucked when it comes to their compensation, and now they're protesting, looking for more appropriate compensation and fairer pay for it, which I think is totally reasonable. None of these shows happen without the writers. I understand the A-list actors and celebrities are always going to put asses into seats and make swamp-ass thrones as people are glued to it for these characters, but those characters are written by these writers, and without them, they'd be fucking flat and worthless. The effect of writers on the actual medium is severely overlooked by just normal viewers, I feel. I've seen real brain rot takes on this from Twitter about how the writers aren't even important to the shows to begin with, which is mind-boggling that we've reached a point where there's a lot of viewers that are unable to wrap their head around the entire show they watch is constructed by these writers. Without them, it doesn't exist, it doesn't happen, and it doesn't work. So it's super weird that people are trying to belittle their role in the industry and downplay their importance, even going as far as to call this whole strike a bunch of mumbo-jumbo, hocus-pocus nonsense and that they're entitled. It's so fucked up. Like, for some reason now people are taking up arms in order to protect billionaires in their right to exploit writers like this. I think it's fucking stupid. Like, again, the writers make the shows happen. It's not like your favorite actors that are in these shows go in there and fucking improv every single one of their lines. That's just not how it works. So yeah, I do agree that the writers deserve better pay, especially because streaming has blown up so much, and yet the pay for writers hasn't grown with it. This sector has exploded, yet for some reason the writers have been left behind when it comes to their compensation. So I think the strike is totally within their right to do. I think it's a good thing. And if you don't believe me that it's a good thing, how about I just show you some of the proof that's in the pudding right now? Get ready, because I'm about to give you a fucking enema of good news. This writer's strike has already been huge W's across the board for anybody with eyes, because since they're striking, a lot of terrible shows have had to go on hiatus, had to go dark. That includes every late night talk show, baby. Every single fucking one of these late night parasites have had to go off air because, of course, they don't write their own material. They're not like real comedians anymore. They don't make fucking jokes on their own. It's all fed to them by these writers. And now that they're striking, they have nothing. Thus, they've had to stop the programs. So no Jimmy Kimmel, no Jimmy Fallon. We're getting everything fucking purged right now and on break, and it feels so good to not have to have YouTube inundated with fucking god-awful late show talk clips. Oh my god, it feels amazing. So there's already a huge W there, already seeing some great stuff from the writer's strike, some good results. But if you want the best possible news from the writer's strike, you know what else is severely affected? Big Mouth. The worst show ever produced by human beings is currently getting hammered because of this writer's strike. It is unable to continue production as of the moment, and we can only pray, have our fingers crossed, that they will just shut down the upcoming season and call it quits. Just put the kibosh on the entire series, because Big Mouth fucking sucks. Just close your eyes and envision this utopia with me. No James Corden Late Late Show. No Big Mouth. That is a serene existence. That would actually unlock the full potential of our brains. It'd be like taking that pill from Limitless. We would fucking invent teleportation technology the next day. Now, even better news, even if Big Mouth does unfortunately continue, if we're cursed for another season of Big Mouth, it's the final season. So there won't be any after that, which that's great news, but it's bittersweet because we could just not have that season air to begin with. So regardless, though, Big Mouth on the horizon is soon to be finished, kaput, which is fantastic. I also forgot one other big one that's currently going dark. Another stinker. Saturday Night Live! Saturday Night Live is also affected by the writer's strike, so they're unable to currently continue as is. So just a lot of good W's all around here. Now, there is more to the purpose behind the strike. It wasn't all for the compensation. There is another component to this that I think it's worth mentioning here. They're also wanting to regulate AI when it comes to the industry. AI is also exploding, and it is evolving at an unbelievably fast rate, which is of course a legitimate concern here. AI is already fucking wild. It is frightening how good it's gotten in such a short period of time, and it's still very primitive. It is still very early on in this technology, so it's only going to get better and more refined. So what the Writers Guild is looking for here is some regulation where the AI can't be trained off of their works. Their works would be protected, so that way the AI can't be building models based around their scripts, can't be like generating scripts of their own based on their work, and also they can't really be using AI to go through and change some of their work or undermine it and shit like that. It's just looking for some level of protection for the writers. It doesn't seem like they're trying to completely outlaw it, make it illegal when it comes to AI in the writing room, or forbid it entirely, because AI can be used as a good tool for writers as well. It's just looking for some level of like regulation or just some openness to discuss how they can utilize AI in different ways there. At least that's how I understand it. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like they're just trying to get rid of it entirely from the writing process. So yeah, overall, wishing the best for the writers here with the strike. From what I can tell, it doesn't seem like the powerful suits out there are really responding at all to it in any meaningful capacity at the moment. It seems like the attitude's kind of just rub some fucking dirt in it, get over it kind of thing. But I guess we'll see how that goes when their biggest programs start to feel the effects of the strike, because the WGA is huge. They do a lot of writing, so I guess we'll see how everything plays out, but just want to talk about it a little bit. That's it. So yep. Unfortunately, the fun police have arrived at my door, sirens blaring, and they're demanding that I give a statement defending my crime of enjoying Palworld. Palworld is a game that's become more popular than Stanley Cups right now, with an absolute explosion onto the scene, selling over 7 million copies in less than a week and reaching a concurrent player count of over 2 million, which is the second highest peak Steam has ever seen, second only to PUBG, which is a game that was so popular that it was basically bigger than the Bible for a while. And another thing that really helped with this is the price point. Palworld is under $30. Meanwhile, every Pokemon game, even the older ones like Sword and Shield and Let's Go Pikachu, are still $60. And yet Palworld offers 20 times the amount of content and 20 times the fun of these modern Game Freak Pokemon games. It's a better deal. If you've been watching any of my streams over the last few days, or even just over the last few days, I've uploaded 3 videos on this bad boy. It's pretty clear this thing makes me smile. I've got some childlike whimsy when it comes to Palworld. It's extremely rare for me to get as invested in a game as I have with Palworld. The game is surprisingly deep. It's more of a survival game that has a Pokemon element to it for creature catching, and I just love the entire package here. It's in early access, so it's expectedly buggy and glitches out the wazoo with so many flaws and so many problems, but it has so many elements in it that are done well enough and haven't really been blended together successfully in the past that it feels unique and really fun. The thing it gets compared to most besides Pokemon is Ark, and Ark is a game that I found so boring that it would probably cure anyone's insomnia if they were exposed to it for more than 15 minutes. It's also non-functional. I tried to play Ark on stream because my friends and I wanted to build up a really nice crew and eventually raid the devs in the game, but I couldn't even play it on stream because it's so infested with hackers. Anytime I went to a server, a hacker would go in and shut it down and kick us out for 10 minutes. So I couldn't even play that fucking thing. And Palworld just works. Like, even when the servers do go down from stress, they're only down for 5 minutes tops. Whereas in Ark, if you get into a server within 5 minutes, you've just done a speedrun world record. Now, I know I'm kind of gushing grannies about Palworld right off rip, but I want to make it clear I really like the game. So the drama was quite the head scratcher for me. So let's get into the actual meat of the subject. Palworld is exploding right now, one of the most popular games there is, and there is so much controversy around it with tons of people trying to make anyone that likes it feel bad for liking it, making all kinds of arguments against it, and I want to go through each and every one of these because I find it to be really surprising that this is where we're at right now, and in the beginning of 2024, that we're mad at bootleg Pokemon here for doing what Game Freak refuses to do, innovate. So, I've been very vocal about my distaste for Game Freak's work over the last decade and some change. I think Game Freak is the laziest developers in the world. They get the task once every couple years to go in and copy and paste their last Pokemon game with no real effort, and somehow they still fuck it up every time. The modern Pokemon games have been the same formula. They haven't changed anything. When they've tried with Arceus, they didn't really go full hog wild with it. They dipped their toes into a couple of ideas and then fucking fell flat on it with mediocre execution. They're too afraid and not talented enough to actually use the Pokemon formula to deliver anything high quality. Multi-billion-dollar franchise, the most fucking lucrative franchise in human history, and the Pokemon games still look like they're made by middle school students as part of some kind of computer science project. It's embarrassing. Like Scarlet and Violet barely even fucking worked. And now we have Palworld that comes out from basically an indie studio that does Pokemon so much better. It should be celebrated that Pokemon is finally being realized for the potential of the concept. There is so much you can do with this, and Palworld is showcasing it, which is why it's so popular. So we shouldn't be content just accepting the sewage, the absolute rotten sludge that Game Freak feeds us when it comes to its Pokemon games, because now we've tasted delicacy with Palworld, and it's so far from perfect, but it's still so much better than anything Game Freak has done recently, it's not even a competition. But anyway, sorry, I keep getting off on tangents right away, but I'm clearly pretty passionate about this topic. So the first thing people immediately started to target Palworld for is the obvious, that it's extraordinarily derivative of Pokemon even from its designs. There are so many pals in Palworld that are basically a carbon copy of Pokemon, just with the color changed. It's actually the meme of, copy my homework, but don't make it too obvious, and then you get the homework and the only thing that changed is the name on the paper, but it's still the same. Admittedly, that is the case with some of the pals in the game. Not all of them, not even most of them, but a small chunk of them, for sure, are very clearly borrowing many design elements from their Pokemon counterparts. So much so that my friends and I often refer to those pals by their Pokemon name, because they're so close. Now, this has gone a little bit chaotic on Twitter, where people are calling things that don't look similar copies. So a big one was Pinking in Palworld being compared to the penguin counterparts in Pokemon. And these two don't look even remotely similar. They just take the concept of an emperor penguin and do something silly with it in different ways. This tweet sums it up nicely by saying that this actually showcases Palworld putting effort into changing a design concept around and making it their own. So it is a legitimate criticism to dislike how derivative some of the designs are and how it clearly borrows maybe too closely to quite a few of them. But it got out of control with people just saying that for every pal in the game when it's just absolutely not the case. But this is a legitimate criticism that I think is totally reasonable to have and hold against Palworld. I too would like if their designs were a little bit more unique, for sure. That is one of my complaints about the game. Does it ruin my enjoyment of it? Absolutely not. It definitely doesn't. Is it a bit of a blemish on it? For sure. But now let's get into the ones that I think have absolutely no merit whatsoever. one of the major things people were saying day one with Palworld is that it's just an asset flip. This was a perspective shared by many that decided not to turn their brain on for the day, and they went viral with people pumping their fists like, yeah, it is an asset flip. This was a big one, saying that it was creatively bankrupt and poorly put together asset flip of a game. This was another one saying that 10 years ago, an asset flip game like this would have been relentlessly ridiculed, and also called it generative AI slop. We'll get into all the AI can of worms here in just a minute, but let's start with this asset flip component. Now, in the first tweet, calling it creatively bankrupt, that's totally fine to say that. Like I said, there are a lot of designs that are very clearly borrowed from Pokemon, but overall, the product is not creatively bankrupt. I haven't seen a Pokemon with guns style game that has survival elements that are blended together pretty well with a really large world with quite a lot to do in it. Granted, a lot of times, a lot of the biomes of the world are super barren and empty, but overall, I'd say that I haven't really seen any other games like Palworld, so I definitely wouldn't call it creatively bankrupt, but maybe he's playing some real heaters behind the scenes that aren't released yet. But anyway, calling it an asset flip, I think is some absolute smooth brain nonsense. Either you don't know what an asset flip game is, or you're just baiting engagement through being incendiary for the sake of some numbers on your tweets. There's just no way anyone genuinely thinks that about this game. I am a connoisseur of asset flips. If you watch my streams, you know I do something called Bad Game Night, where I'll go through Steam's new releases and play games that nobody has ever heard of, looking for the stinkiest, most foul abominations game engines are capable of pumping out, and most of those games are legitimate asset flips. What it means is the game is composed entirely of store-bought assets, and everything is just jumbled together into an absolute mess that kind of works. Usually what it is some kind of open world zombie horde shooter. That's your most notable culprit, your most common offender of being an asset flip. It just takes things from the Unreal Engine store, it takes the guns, the character, sets you in there, and you just randomly shoot zombies and other assets that charge at you, and that's the whole game. That's a fucking asset flip, and there's varying degrees of it, but that's your most egregious example. Palworld should not even be in the same sentence as asset flip. Does it use assets? Absolutely. You know what else does? Everything else. Every other game in existence uses assets to different degrees. Palworld is no exception there. There is clearly assets there, but it's not the bulk of the game. It's not entirely composed of it or anything like that. They're used in their product the same way they are in every other major release. It's not a fucking asset flip. And if we're going to play ball with this idea, you know what would absolutely qualify as an asset flip to people that believe this for Palworld? Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker is another game that I absolutely love, and this was a video game industry darling for a little while, and Dark and Darker is almost entirely composed of Unreal Engine assets that they bought and put into their game. They openly state that much of the 3D graphics assets were purchased from the Unreal Marketplace, and there are tons of links to them in the store that they used in their game. It's a ton of assets they used in it. Significantly more than Palworld. Why did I not hear a whole bunch of hoopla about Dark and Darker being an asset flip? That's weird. It seems really selective to just choose Palworld for this. It doesn't make any sense. You clearly haven't played the game and were grasping at straws for something to shit on it for because it's popular, is how it seems. Because it is just, by no definitions, an asset flip. But now let's get into some of the other ones that have been very controversial. A big one is the claim that a lot of it was AI generative. Now, this is a real problem that I think the video game industry is going to be facing very soon, with AI being integrated into games in a way that's going to be extremely scary going forward, take a lot of jobs, and produce a lot of slop. I think that is absolutely right around the corner. But right now, there is no proof at all that AI was used in any way in Palworld. Right now, all of that evidence is based off the developer, as well as a couple of statements I believe the CEO made in a previous project. There's a PC Gamer article going over this as well that talks about how this AI claim is right now just based off of hunches. There's a ton of people playing Super Sleuth right now and investigating whether or not AI was used, and at the moment there's no substantiated evidence to back up any claims that AI was used in this project at all. Now, if it does come out that AI was used in this game, that will certainly change my impression of it. I am not looking forward to the future where AI is replacing real human ingenuity in entertainment. I am very much dreading that. It's extremely concerning to imagine that future where all of your entertainment is just part of an algorithm that the AI knows that you're going to enjoy and clap and spit up at. So if it does come out that Palworld used AI in a big capacity during its development, Obviously, that's going to change how I feel about the game, 100%. But right now, again, there is no proof of AI being used here, and yet some people are singing it like it's the gospel and 100% confirmed and true, based off nothing. Which is basically Twitter in a nutshell, to be honest. Now let's get to one that I actually found to be the most interesting at the time. There was a Twitter thread that came out talking about how the models are exactly the same in Palworld to some of the Pokemon counterparts, basically insinuating that they kind of just took the models and tweaked them slightly but kept everything else intact. That they copied the models and made exact replicas, which would be a big deal. If they took that and copied it for their game, that would probably open them up to a huge lawsuit from Nintendo, because that is literally just stealing their work. But then this morning, it turns out that the person that was posting all the threads going over like how the models are the exact same meshes and everything was a bunch of hooey. It was a load of dirty barnacles. It turns out they were actually doing like some dubious scaling in order to make them fit, so it wasn't exact meshes or copies or anything like that. And they even openly admitted that they feel regretful for calling it exact and this and that. And then they posted a pinned tweet saying this: I am doing this because I think it's disgusting how much Palworld glorifies animal abuse. What in tarnation? What the hell is even that? That is a load of poop with some fart on it. You're doing this because Palworld glorifies animal abuse. It's a video game. Someone also pointed out that Pokemon is literally sanitized cockfighting, which it is. I mean, you're making the animals fight each other, and they respond saying, I think that's bad too. So then where is this energy for Pokemon? Like, it doesn't compute. I can't tell if they're just trolling or not, but they have so many threads about how Palworld copied the exact meshes and, insinuating that there's so much foul play there that it feels weird if it'd be satirical, because you went through so much effort to like take down Palworld with these claims or like attempt to. It's so odd. It's a video game. It's not real. There's no animal abuse, and it's not promoting it. No kid's gonna play Palworld and go out, find some kind of exotic animal and make it work in the mines. Like, that's not going to happen. It's what is happening? What's going on here? So anyway, the claims about the meshes being exact aren't true. However, I wanted to do more digging, because even if you just look at it with the old eyeball test, the meshes of the models in Palworld are super, super similar to the Pokemon ones. The shapes are the same. A lot of the placement of certain appendages and stuff is in the same location. So I did a little sleuthing of my own here, did a little digging around, and I found a YouTuber named GoGo who was a technical animator and gave their perspective on this and talked about why the similarities in the meshes matters. Now, there are differences between them, obviously, like the topology of it is very different from Palworld to Pokemon, but the general shape remains mostly the same, and some of the locations of certain appendages on other models is similar to the Pokemon one, or in the same location. And GoGo explains how this helps with animation. If you're looking to take an animation and bring it over to something else, because the shape stays the same, it makes it simpler and quicker. Now, I want to be clear, GoGo's not pointing the finger here, trying to accuse Palworld of doing anything wrong, and in fact even mentions that Nintendo could easily sue, and they'd already have all of the evidence. They probably would have already sued if this was the case. If Palworld developers were just taking their models and porting the animations over or something, Nintendo would have likely already taken action, because the evidence is just right there at your fingertips. It's pretty quick to access. So GoGo's just giving their perspective as an industry veteran here, that these shapes do matter, and since they're so similar, it does open the door to speculation on whether or not the Palworld developers copy and pasted things like the animation or something of that effect. It just leads to speculation on whether or not they're being truthful about creating from scratch. Again, GoGo isn't making any accusations against them, just stating that the shapes are important, even if it's not like exact one-to-one meshes. Just having the shapes be in like the exact same order and same placement is still a big deal in the profession, according to GoGo. Of course, I'm not in the industry, so I don't know, but still pretty interesting nonetheless. And another thing GoGo mentions that I want to mention is that a lot of people have brought up the fact that a lot of Pokemon are based on real-world animals, and thus a lot of the pals in Palworld are based on animals. There's only so many ways of conveying a snake, or a lamb, or a stingray. Like, the shapes there are going to be pretty closely resembling each other, I imagine, because at its core, it's still this real-life animal that we know. So like a snake is going to look cylindrical and long across, right? So that could be an explanation for it, but since it is still so close, it does just have that level of speculation to it. Though I do think that argument could also work for shooters as well. So like there's only so many ways of conveying a certain gun, right? So I bet if you broke down the mesh and model of a lot of guns, comparing Call of Duty guns to Battlefield guns to any other FPS guns, you'd probably find the meshes look pretty similar there too. And I don't think that indicates that they're just copy and pasting the same shit. But again, I'm not knowledgeable enough on this area to really speak on it with any real authority. I'm just giving my perspective on it. I do agree that there's only so many ways of conveying like a snake and shit, but it's really odd how there are very similar elements shared in the mesh to Pokemon counterparts that aren't normally there on a snake. But anyway, there's still no concrete proof that Palworld developers took these meshes and are just copy and pasting this shit behind the scenes. So these were all the main controversial talking points used to shit on Palworld and say that we shouldn't be encouraging it, this game doesn't deserve its success, this and that. And I understand like some people being put off by it being too derivative, that's understandable. But a lot of the other things like AI, there's no proof of it even being used in Palworld, and yet it's being used as this gotcha for why Palworld's the ultimate evil. Shit like that, I just think is reaching for controversy or calling it like an asset flip. There's plenty of things to not like about the game. As I said, it's so far from perfect, but it's still super fun and significantly better than anything Game Freak has put out in a long, long time. So I personally am not super bothered by some of the designs being extremely derivative. I hope they don't go that direction in the future. It seems like they're actually going to be updating this game. They just released a roadmap already, and it's been less than a week, so they're already looking to keep updating the game and improving it. So I'm excited to see where it'll be by the end of the year if they keep up that energy, because I do think there's so much potential here, and it is showing that there's a lot of potential, a lot of juice left here in the Pokemon idea, the concept of creature catching, monster taming. So I've been really enjoying it. If there is big revelations about AI being used, or if it turns out that they have been copy and pasting Pokemon shit behind the scenes, obviously that would change my perception of it quite a bit. But as of right now, there's still no proof of any of that. But yeah, anyway, that's my full thoughts on the whole Palworld drama. That's about it. See ya. I wasn't even going to bother covering Halo Season 2 because it doesn't seem like most people care about it anymore after how abominable Season 1 was. It was an affront to God that insulted the very technology that gave us the ability to watch moving pictures in the first place. Halo Season 1 was atrocious. So there were very low expectations going into Season 2, but as I said on stream multiple times, the first 2 episodes I actually thought were going in a pretty good direction. Like, I was impressed. It seemed like they did bring on new people that were familiar with the property, and as I understand it, they did. And you could kind of feel a little bit more passion being put behind this project. However, there were still the remnants from Season 1 that they couldn't just write out, so instead they had to kind of change trajectory with all of these, like, pieces that were grandfathered into Halo Season 2. And I liked what they were doing with characters that were previously super underwhelming. They were putting them in more interesting positions in the overarching story as opposed to these like snooze fest side plots that no one gave a fuck about. But then this show fell back into its old ways, it stumbles, and it just starts going in the worst directions again. Until the season finale, which I actually thought was handled pretty well. There was a lot of really cool shit in the season finale, but then, even still, there was some really stupid shit too. Because it seems like in this series, the way the plot advances is by characters making really dumb, out-of-character decisions. Like, really fucking, like, everyone happens to be getting pumped full of fucking stupid juice. And they'll just all of a sudden do something dumb, which then advances the plot in a big way. Like, that is something that's happened a couple of times now. But I do think Halo Season 2 is an improvement over Season 1, which of course isn't like the biggest compliment you can give, because that's a pretty low bar, but I am happy with some of the things about it, but overall, again, disappointed, because it's still not good. By no means is Halo Season 2 great or anything. And I wasn't going to talk about this because everyone expected it to be bad anyway. I'm not exactly enlightening anyone here by letting you know that, yep, Halo Season 2 is also bad. But then I saw this Kotaku headline. Halo Season 2 sticks the landing, I told you so. Halo series naysayers, show yourselves, because the Paramount Plus show is hitting all the right notes. If those notes are fart sounds, I guess, the sound of like a fucking wet B flat in your trousers. They go on to say that it does everything a video game adaptation should do and then some. and then goes on to say that they've been saying for over a year that the show is good. That is mind-boggling to me. Like, I understand there's differences of opinions, but this opinion is so bad it should be borderline criminal. Like, this is something that should have you undergo, like, a psychiatric evaluation. What do you mean this is what every video game adaptation should do and then some? How? It doesn't use anything from what it's adapting. It doesn't take anything from the actual source material. It's telling its own fanfic, and it's doing an extremely poor job of it. Halo Season 1, they've been talking about this show being good for over a year, meaning they must have enjoyed Season 1. Halo Season 1 is bad, even if you don't know what Halo is. On its own 2 feet, it stumbles and eats shit. Halo Season 1 is just bad television, no matter how you spin it. It is a show that had a huge emphasis on the worst parts of television. For some reason, there was this fixation on showing Master Chief's cheeks, which is what gave it the title of Master Cheeks, because there were so many ass shots of him for no reason. I've already made a video covering everything I think that's wrong with Halo Season 1, so I'm not just going to regurgitate all of those points here. But the point I'm making is that this is not what video game adaptations should be by any means at all. The Halo television series is unrecognizable from the Halo franchise that it's taking from. The only thing they share in common is names and armor. That's it. You're not going to find Master Chief fucking a human that happens to be part of the Covenant, literally steaming her ham in the middle of this war by playing Halo 1 through 3, reading the books, or even, God forbid, playing the 343 Halo games. That is exclusive to just this misguided television show. Now, as I've always said, there's no point in adapting things one-to-one, because what's the point there? You need to take it in different creative directions, but this is so outlandish in the Halo universe that it doesn't have a connection. There's no point in calling it Halo. At least, this is still me talking about Season 1. I ended up focusing on that too hard because of how ridiculous that statement was in this article from Kotaku. And I know Kotaku is on life support right now, just pumping out as much rage bait as they can to try and get as many pity clicks and desperation as they can possibly muster. I get it. They're in their death spiral. But this still, like, even knowing it's rage bait was enough to make me just want to come in here and talk about Season 2 since it wrapped up. Now, going back to this, there is one thing that I do agree with them on. It's this last sentence. Action sequences felt tighter and better choreographed, emotional beats hit when they were supposed to, and the interwoven story threads made for incredibly watchable television. What I agree with from that statement is that last part. Watchable television. That's not the high compliment that the writer thinks it is. Calling something watchable is like the bare minimum. That's like the lowest possible thing you can say. That's like if you're getting bullied and the teacher makes the bully say something nice to you. Like, that is like the tiniest compliment you can give it. And that's what I can say about Season 2, is that it is watchable. And I'd even agree that the action sequences are pretty tight and well choreographed. I do think the action, when it's present in Season 2, is pretty good and interesting. Granted, you still have to suspend disbelief and just accept that everyone on screen's a fucking moron at all times, because even right away, even in the 2 episodes I was praising, there's a scene where the Marines are in a dark tunnel, and there's a Covenant on the other side, and they know there's some danger out there, but instead of turning on their light, they just keep going in like groups of two or three into the darkness to die. Like they're being led by Noah to get on the Ark. 2 by 2, they just go out there and just get fucking slaughtered by the Covenant in the dark without ever turning on their flashlight, which they have. They have the technology to turn on a fucking flashlight, and they just don't. Because, fuck you, that's why. It's silly. But again, the action sequences, I do agree, are tight and well choreographed for the most part. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start by saying a few things I think Halo Season 2 does well. And the biggest thing, the big standout here, is Ackerson. Ackerson is a villain that was present in Halo lore before Season 2, and he is played by an actor named Joseph Morgan, who is actually a fan of Halo. And you can feel it through his performance. He does a great job at being the villain. And I think he was a really helpful component of this season to bring in what he knew from Halo to his role. And that really helped elevate it. Ackerson was by far the best part of Season 2, hands down. Another thing I think they did really well is actually Master Chief this season. And not so much the way Master Chief is written, but Pablo Schreiber, I'm not sure how you say his last name, as Master Chief. There are a couple of really great moments with Pablo as Master Chief where I was like, damn, if he just had some better material, a better story to work with, he'd be a great Master Chief. Like, I really bought into him as Master Chief in this season. I was like, damn, this could be the guy. Like, if we had a good Halo show, if we were in, like, the multiverse where there was a good Halo show and Pablo was spearheading it, that shit would be a banger. I think he really does get it as Master Chief on what that role would require. I do think that in a Halo television show, you can't have him in the armor 100% of the time. In the first season, I was like, man, he should always be in the armor at least 99% of the time. But in season 2, seeing Pablo as Master Chief out of the armor, I still got that from him. Every scene he was in, even without his armor, which is pretty much the entire show, he's only in his armor twice, pretty much. No, 3 times, actually, I think. And the rest of the time, he's spent just human being. He's just spent as John. And I still felt like, damn, that's the Master Chief. So he did a great job, really, of embodying that character, even outside of the armor. It's just such a shame that it feels like it comes in a losing effort here, because everything else around these two characters is just not good. I mentioned that Season 2 took some of the characters that had these really boring side quests that felt really insignificant to the plot, like Soren, like Quan, and it took these characters and put them into, like, the actual main juice here in Season 2. And I really appreciated that effort, but it didn't seem like they were able to commit to just actually having them as a front and center component of the story. Instead, they're still, like, off on their own little adventures half the time that you just don't care about when you look at the actual meat of this. The Covenant are about to get to the Halo ring. The humans are losing. Reach has fallen. Like, all of these really big things. And then you still have to go watch Quan see ghosts. You have to watch Soren and his wife try and locate their son. Like, that is so underwhelming when put against the big stuff. I'd rather those characters be brought in and contribute to the big stuff as opposed to just kind of being there and then still doing their side quests. Oh, I also did forget to mention one other thing I think they actually do really well. It is a huge spoiler, though, so this is your spoiler warning. The Flood. I thought they crushed it with the Flood. I was shocked by how well they did the Flood here, so I won't get into any more detail than that. I won't dive, like, super deep into spoilers, but I actually thought they handled it really, really well. Impressed with that. But honestly, it actually makes me more upset that there were some good moments here and some, like, actually very impressive shots, because it showed what could be if the rest of the show could just follow suit. There are some elements here that work pretty well, more so in Season 2 than Season 1 had. Like I said, it is an improvement. And it showed that there is the real capacity to create a great Halo show. But it's just not this. I don't know if there's just too many cooks in the kitchen working on this show or what, but there are some wonderful shots here, and then there is some stinky shots here. There's some good writing here, like with Ackerson and even some of Master Chief's lines, and then there's some terrible writing here, like with some of Kai's lines, and I'm not going to get too deep into spoiler territory, but some other horrible writing choices. There's nonsensical plot holes that are present and never addressed. It's just such a mixed bag. It seems like there are people on board this team that get it and can deliver great Halo content on the television screen. But there's just too many other moving parts behind the scenes that overwhelm that and lead to what you ultimately get here, which is an unsatisfactory season of Halo yet again. Even with all this said, I do think with the finale of Season 2, if there is a Season 3 of Halo, it's actually in a good spot to pick up and be entertaining and actually be pretty solid. I think if there is a Season 3, if they can just dial in on what worked for Season 2 and take it from where the finale ends on their high notes, we might actually see the first good season of Halo. I don't know if there's going to be a Season 3 or not. I don't think it's fully confirmed. It's mainly still speculation right now. But yeah, I guess maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but it's just there were some good moments here, and I just hate that it's still overall not good. Like, it's still bad. I don't think it's worth watching. Like, I don't think by any stretch of imagination Halo Season 2 redeems this show and it makes it worth the slog of getting through it. It's not. But Season 3 of this show could be decent with where it's at the moment. Anyway, though, maybe I'll get into, like, more spoiler-heavy stuff about all of the things I dislike about Season 2 on stream or something. But I won't do it here because I know people don't like to hear spoilers and all of that during these things, so I'll just leave it there and I won't continue ranting about it anymore. That's really about it. So yeah. I'm sure all of you have noticed that self-improvement videos have become extremely popular on YouTube, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I totally understand that since so many people in society are more isolated now from other human beings than ever, oftentimes they'll turn their attention to the internet to get like some basic advice on certain things, and I get that it can be helpful to some people, but it's become a huge market and that's made it ripe for exploitation. So there's been this rise in AI generated self-improvement gurus, and they all make the exact same video with the exact same life hacks. So you want to get a woman? Well, you need to be a high value man, an alpha male. That means brushing your teeth, combing your hair, eat well, sleep well, go to the gym. You'll be drowning in sodden beef curtains in no time if you follow this advice that no one else is telling you, because no one wants you to know it. They want to keep you in the dark as a sad cuck beta male. And it's just that shit over and over and over again. And I wanted to show one channel that I found today that had me giggling, that is the embodiment of this entire trend. It's a channel called Far From Weak, and it's a picture of Kratos, and the guy behind it isn't using an AI voice like all of the other channels. It's his actual voice, but he puts a filter on it to artificially deepen it so it sounds more like Kratos and more masculine. And not to immediately start taking shots here, but to me that sounds far from strong. You're afraid to use your real voice for fear of ridicule, so instead you use effects to make it sound deeper than it is. To me that sounds pretty weak, but let's go ahead and go over his most popular video here.
There are guys out there that attract the highest quality of girls, and they do so effortlessly. On the other side, you will find many guys that can't get laid, and that is why they are bitter.
He makes it sound so haunting, like he's the Zodiac killer or something, and he's trying so hard to make his voice deeper so that way it's helping with the pitch shifting to bring it down so it sounds a little more natural. So he's getting up in there and letting it get real raspy. Here are the secret 3 tips to getting so much pussy your cock will fall off.
The truth is that girls can make life more fun. It is always good to focus on yourself, but you have to stay honest with yourself. Don't start blaming girls for your own shortcomings. Instead, learn from videos like this one and become better with them in real life.
I have absolutely no doubt that he has ChatGPT generate these scripts, because every single video plays out almost exactly like this on all of the other channels that do this kind of content. By far the most popular subject covered by these channels is like this: how to get girls. The ultimate tutorial on getting women. So you want to fuck like an alpha male? Here's how. And it's the same points every single time, and all of those videos are so popular, which is extremely sad, because what that means is there's a bunch of really lonely dudes out there that just keep watching these same videos over and over again, somehow expecting to like get all of those skills through osmosis. Like just by watching it, it's going to make them more equipped at getting a woman without ever actually implementing any change in their life. It's not even terrible advice every time either. Like there, don't blame women. Look more introspectively. But that's not groundbreaking information. That's not like a eureka moment, like, oh, it was my fault all along. Like, I feel like deep down, everyone who watches these videos knows that they have to grab the bull by the horns and do it themselves. And they've been told that millions and millions and millions of times. Why keep feeding into the AI content farm here to hear it again? It's like going to these videos for affirmations, like, okay, I do need to make a change, and then not doing it, and then going and watching another, like, Chad Energy Aura video tutorial. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Number 1. High energy. Women are attracted to energetic, confident men. They crave a man that is oozing with confidence and is overflowing with energy.
Who doesn't know that? It's not just women that like that, it's human beings in general. No one likes someone that's just going to slink away into the shadows acting like some kind of downtrodden weirdo. Everyone likes someone that's confident. Everyone knows that. High energy, people like that too. Not necessarily the way he portrays it here with like a gorilla banging on its chest to attract females. Like, people don't like that level of energy where you're just out there like a fucking bozo screaming and shouting and hooting and hollering. But everyone knows that confidence matters a lot in life. And I'm 100% certain that everyone in the audience that turns to these self-improvement AI creators knows that. So I don't know why they keep coming back to it to keep hearing that they need to be more confident without ever really doing anything of their own. Maybe they just really like watching the anime montage and the random movie clips montage, perhaps. Like maybe that's the draw.
When I say this, I'm not saying to act like a clown or behave like a fool. Think of the alpha gorilla that gets all the females. Because the silverback is the powerful leader, full of energy and strength. If challenged by a younger or even by an outsider male, a silverback will scream, beat his chest, bare his teeth, and then charge forward.
I love how all of these channels always pull from the animal kingdom, either the gorillas or lions is another really popular one. Why does the lion fuck, but you don't? What separates you from the lion? Here's the breakdown. This one's using the gorilla. The gorilla has a ton of energy. It's the powerful leader. When challenged, it'll charge forward, beating its chest and screaming. It's like, yeah, it's a super cool, fun fact here, but the example isn't necessary. That's not going to be the selling point to someone watching this. That's not going to be the eye-opener. Like, nah, this guy's full of baloney. What a bunch of horseradish. No way confidence matters at all. And then the gorilla segment comes on, he's like blown away. Whoa! So I guess confidence does matter. Look at the gorillas. Okay, I guess I'm gonna emulate that. From now on, anytime I feel threatened out in society, I'm just gonna scream and start charging at them. And then I'll get women.
And even happily serve as playmates for excitable infants. Let me be very clear. There are alphas amongst us humans too, and they always have higher energy than beta males. This is a very important part of thriving as a man, and you will not hear many people talk about it.
The zoology lesson goes on longer than anything else he talks about here, just focusing on the gorilla behavior, because I imagine ChatGPT really went in depth on it, so he just put the whole thing in here to pad the runtime, and then he tries to tie it all back. So there are alphas among humans too, and they have high energy and confidence. Won't hear many people talk about it. Except for every single other content farm that makes this exact type of slop. Like, that is the most preached thing ever in this category.
You can boost your energy for free by working out, getting sunlight, and getting good sleep.
No shit, you don't say. By doing like the basic human necessities, you can boost your energy? Wow.
Number 2, be charismatic. Charismatic men are perceived as both likable and powerful, a dynamic, irresistible combination that drives women insane and makes them obsessed.
Another absolute bombshell of information you won't hear anyone else talk about. Be charismatic. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm almost 100% sure the reason these videos always have so many views isn't even really people looking for any kind of legitimately good advice or anything. It's people in a desperate situation to find companionship and looking for some kind of cheat code or some kind of, like, glitch that they can use to find a soulmate without putting in any work of their own. So they click on these videos expecting something new, some little nugget of wisdom that might actually help them, but they just keep getting fed the same advice every single time. Granted, it's not bad advice, like having confidence and charisma is extremely important, but that's not why people are clicking on the video. Everyone knows that shit. I really feel like the reason they get engagement is because it's people truly searching for this fucking, like, I don't know, super soldier potion like Captain America so they can overnight be the Adonis they dream of.
To be charismatic, you have to be able to listen more than you talk. This will make you more mysterious, and it makes the other person feel important and good about themselves. Ask questions, maintain eye contact, smile, frown, nod, respond.
This is like some kind of program that would be used by aliens to try and help them figure out what human expression is like. No shit. When you're in a conversation, you should be engaging with it. Obviously. Now, the advice about listening more than you talk, I think that's legitimately good advice. Not because it builds you up as some kind of mysterious anime character or whatever, but because that's just a genuinely good thing to do. So that way you can process what's being talked about and legitimately conversate about it, as opposed to just overpowering the other person in this conversation where you treat it like some kind of war. Again, that's not even like an incorrect point to make. It's just a point that's been made a billion times before, and it's just being pumped out by AI self-improvement gurus out the wazoo, and they're making tons of money off it.
Number 3, smell good, dress good. While we're taught not to judge a book by its cover, first impressions always matter.
Zoinks, you don't say. Smell good, huh? Who would have guessed that that would be important in getting ladies? You're telling me you can't run around smelling like turbo ass? Gonna have to take notes there so I remember that. That's big. What a huge revelation there. Broke new ground. And then dress good? You gotta dress well? Oh man, this is big stuff.
The first step to smelling good is to not smell bad. Make sure you take care of your hygiene, shower every day, and use some natural form of soap. Make sure your mouth hygiene is good.
I've said this before, but YouTubers have become like parents to a lot of their audience. This is just telling you the most basic shit you've ever heard in your life. The trick to smelling good is not smelling bad. Who is this, Socrates? Man, this wisdom is profound. Really makes you stop and think. But anyway, there's no, you get the point. There's no reason for me to keep going through the videos. You get what the channel is.
I have to go away for a while. This isn't clickbait or some pathetic attempt to get views. I will actually vanish by the end of this video.
He has to go away for a while because he's being hunted by the Illuminati shadow government that's trying to take him down for being too powerful and revealing the secrets on how to get laid. So this is his goodbye video. And in it, he talks about the movement, which he is extremely proud of and wants to continue to spread the movement.
Our movement is better than that. Besides, I have many other faceless channels that bring in consistent money even when I sleep. There's no reason for me to milk content since money is of no concern to me. So, the question is, what would take our movement to the next level?
His movement is just basic ChatGPT self-improvement advice. The most by-the-numbers, basic surface-level shit you could ever imagine in terms of how to help yourself. That's it. That's his movement. But what he drops here is something I find very interesting. He claims to have many other faceless channels just like this one that are generating a ton of income for him. And I believe it. I would imagine he has an entire network of channels just like this because you can spit these videos out super quick and super easy. I imagine he doesn't even use his voice for the other ones. He probably does just use canned AI voices, which makes it even lower lift and even bigger return. Less time, more money. That's exactly the kind of world we're entering into in the digital space. We're seeing it a lot with shorts right now. That's been a huge talking point for a lot of people recently, is all of the AI generated shorts. YouTube recently rolled out something where you have to click to disclose whether or not the video is AI generated content. It's supposed to help viewers distinguish real from synthetic content. And that is going to be something that's going to get really tricky down the line too. And this guy is far from the only one that's doing this. There's actually tons of people that are super open about their AI usage and content farm. So I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a shorts creator who was talking about how he's making 15 to 20K a month just by using ChatGPT to generate things like top 10 reptile facts. And then the only thing he has to do is compile random reptile videos that he finds on YouTube, throw it into a short, and he's making a ton of money doing that. This guy is doing it for self-improvement. He's just taking like the most general self-improvement topics, how to get women, how to be more attractive, what alpha males do versus beta males, that kind of thing. It generates the script, and then all he has to do is just randomly grab anime moments and movie moments and put them into the video, and that's it. Ship it. And he says he has tons of other channels that do similar things to make him tons of money. There's a lot of people that are doing this now, and it's something that is only growing in popularity. It is so fucking dystopian, and I just had to talk about it a little bit here. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Usually when I talk about Twitch drama, it's goofier topics like that girl who was banned for queefing into her mic. And by the way, she was kind of a pioneer, like an actual innovator in the field. She was like the Tesla of farting. And the queef queen actually started a trend on Twitch for a little while, where recently ASMR streamers were farting into their mics for sub goals. So unfortunately for the valedictorian of vaginal air expulsion, she was just a little early to this. She just was ahead of her time. Had she been queefing during this meta, she could have probably popped off on subs, but she got there too soon. Also, those streamers that were farting into their mics also got temp bans for it, so the result was the same, but she wasn't able to squeeze as much juice from it as they were able to. But anyway, this is not one of those goofier topics. Today we're talking about something actually serious, like genuinely awful. Yesterday I received quite a few emails and mentions on Twitter letting me know about a streamer who was allegedly exposed for grooming underage girls and being a predator, shit like that. And for some reason, the guy that was accused of all these things mentioned me. In this video on his channel, it says, hopefully Charlie will make a video on this and help prove my innocence. He's a homie. I don't know if this is about me, but a lot of people seem to think that it was. I want to make it clear, I don't know this guy, so I haven't like defended him or anything like that, and I don't know why people are emailing me asking why I'm defending him when I haven't done or even said anything about this until right now. It's important to know that all of these are just allegations at the moment. Nothing is proven, but seems like some pretty hard evidence. This isn't just some like Twitter dog shit where one anonymous account says, in 2013 at MegaCon Orlando at the washing machine enthusiast booth, Soda Poppin' was groping on my nutsack, fondling it a little bit aggressively. It felt good at first, then it got a little weird when he started tugging on my nutsack hairs. And, you know, ever since then, I haven't been the same. Soda Poppin's a predator. You know, it's not just like baseless nonsense or anything. Like, there is real evidence against this streamer for the things that they're being accused of. So since that video title has led people to believe that I'm somehow involved in this whole thing, I thought it was at least worth talking about. So I want to go over the full lore of the situation, as well as some things about it that just don't add up about all of it. So this all started with a thread on Livestream Fails, LSF, also known as the home to XQC's clips. If you miss an XQC stream, you can just check Livestream Fails and see every single moment of it posted there on the front page of it. Of course, I'm only kidding, there's Ms. Kiff clips as well. But last night there was an anomaly. Some kind of like fucking solar eclipse had occurred on Livestream Fails where the top post wasn't XQC or Ms. Kiff, it was this. And it's about this user talking about their experience with a streamer. And you can read it for yourself, but the gist of it is they were following this channel in 2018 and randomly decided to check in on them that evening. And he believes that his name must have sounded similar to a girl's name on the platform because the streamer reached out asking if they were a girl and asking to chat, and then the following ensued. I'm blurring out the streamer's name everywhere just in case this all does turn out to be false, a hoax, or even worse, a malicious attempt to ruin one innocent person's career. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that that's why I'm doing that, just because none of this is completely confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt. He reached out using Twitch Whispers, which is akin to using AOL Instant Messenger to get in contact with somebody. No one has used Twitch Whispers in years. This was probably the first time this was even activated since Twitch launched. Nobody uses Whispers, so, I mean, call this guy old-fashioned. I mean, this was pretty wild. I didn't even know this even still existed. It's an archaic system. More people use carrier pigeons than Twitch Whispers. But as you can see, he gets in touch. Are you a girl? Yes. Why do you ask? Want to DM on Discord, and then tries to add them. So they decide to add them on Discord, and this is the conversation they have. He asks what state and how old they are, so basically some Omegle shit, ASL, age, sex, location. They respond with 17, 18 soon. Streamer says, really nice, young, I like that, I could fly you to me, maybe. And then the conversation really starts to look like something you'd hear Chris Hansen reading. They ask when they started to follow. They say, check in the chat and I'll type something. So the streamer responds with, when you were a teeny then, hee hee. I actually haven't heard or seen the word teeny since I was a fucking teeny, like 11 or 12 years old. So that was quite a blast from the past. And then this is where it gets very fucking weird. The streamer says, let me show you a little vid, are you home? And you can probably already guess the video that they send. I'll go ahead and spoil the surprise. It is not an EDP situation where he sends a picture of his shit. He sends no shit pics. This is a video of him jerking off, beating on his meat. Just playing the skin flute. Obviously won't be showing even a pixel of that video. From there they say, would you love it, honey, if you could sit on me and feel my hard dick in your pussy? Hee hee, bunch of hearts. Well, that's kind of sweet, right? I mean, that's like Valentine's Day kind of shit right there. And then he says that he's horny, as if that was a secret. I mean, there's nothing left to the imagination here. I mean, he sent a video of him jerking off. I would imagine there's some horniness levels reaching critical mass. You go in fucking nuclear meltdown mode of horniness. Then again, it would feel so good for you, baby. Would you like to, hee hee, babe? And then that's when the poster says, I'm making an LSF thread right now. You like grooming young girls. I'll get you banned everywhere. So he basically just says that he's making the thread about all of this. And then in response to him revealing that he is not a 17-year-old girl and is in fact going to be reporting this behavior on Reddit, the streamer responds with something I can't show anything of, because he drops the N-word a few times, but he basically says, "I knew you were fake," and then says the N-word quite a few times. So I'm not showing any of that, but that's where those screenshots end. He then gives a little evidence to prove that the Discord account that he's sharing in the screenshots belongs to the streamer, and that's kind of where that interaction completed. In the comments, other people were finding video clips where the streamer was asking how he can delete every video on his hard drive at the push of a button once all of this was coming to light. It seemed like he really wanted to find a program to scrub his hard drive of all of his videos all at once, which is a little weird. Some of his old tweets were dug up where he was talking about having sex with 14-year-olds is less of a crime than stealing Coca-Cola, as well as some other really fucking gross tweets. But I'd like to talk about a few things here. On LSF, there has been a few times in the past where a poster has made a thread about a streamer they don't like, accusing them of some horrible things that turned out to be completely false. Even though the evidence made a lot of sense, they'd have like screenshots of shit. What they didn't show was what actually transpired, being like extremely manipulative, lying and stuff like that in order to get that kind of reaction and make that kind of narrative on LSF in order to just farm karma points or hurt the streamer they don't like. I'm not saying that's what happened here, I'm just saying this kind of thing has happened in the past and was proven to be a hoax. Like the fucking Bigfoot or Satchmo, shit like that. Right now, this is the only post and only person talking about this streamer like this. I can't find anything else from anyone sharing a similar experience they've had with this streamer or anything even close to this kind of experience with them. Which strikes me as a little odd, because if he is grooming underage girls so actively that he would reach out to someone in his chat he thought was a girl based on just their Twitch name, you would think there'd be other victims that would come forward and share a similar experience with this person, but I haven't seen anything like that. It is possible that this is just so new that no one else has had a chance to come forward with that kind of information. This is less than a day old, so that's definitely a possibility, but it does strike me as odd that he's so active that he'll reach out to someone that he even has like a small fucking smell of a female in his chat and reach out and like start jerking off for them, that it would only be this one isolated incident. That would strike me as like a pattern, not just like a one-time thing. So I would have expected more people to have similar stories, but I haven't seen anything like that yet. So for now, this is all we have to go off of. And the tweets are extremely suspicious, but what really strikes me as odd is that the profile picture is like the stereotypical neckbeard thing, like very self-aware neckbeard anime weeb. It really seems like a parody account. On Twitter, there are people that are open pedophiles, like that's not uncommon for Twitter, but it strikes me as weird that the profile pic would be like the neckbeard people make fun of, like the anime shit neckbeard thing while saying these things. It really seems like it was supposed to be satire, and I don't know if it is or not. Either way, it's dog shit satire, but the account's been deleted, so I can't really go through and look at all of it myself. There's only a couple screenshots of the individual tweets now. And from what I was reading from the active members in his community during all of this, he wanted to be on LSF. Apparently they were saying he always wanted to be the top post on LSF, so it almost seems like it could have even been manufactured to a certain degree, which would be the dumbest fucking way of going about that, to have you be labeled a pedophile by so many people in the Twitch community. I don't think does anything good for your streaming career, if that really is what was going on here. So I don't know if I really believe that, but there are some things in this that just don't make sense to me. The Discord having no profile pic, immediately sharing his Discord and then going 0 to 100. Hey, where do you live? Do you want to see me put my finger in my urethra? Just fucking tugging on his meat real hard after like 4 text messages back and forth. Like, it all just seems really fishy to me. And his chat going on about how you fell for Malord's schemes. They kept saying, like, Malord, treating him like he was some kind of supervillain mastermind and we were just pawns in his game. Like, this is exactly what he wanted, which wouldn't make him a mastermind and make him a master fucking idiot, because this is such a dumb idea for, like, publicity, if that really is what's going on here. It just really, all of it just doesn't add up to me. Like, to be so open about, you know, pedophile predator shit, that just doesn't make any sense. There's also this, so the poster was replying to a comment which is now deleted, and he says he's been famous in his chat for grooming young girls on Discord. When he whispered me, I wanted to see if that's true. That statement directly contradicts what he says in the opening statement in the thread, where he says he just randomly decided to go to the stream and then he just typed something in chat and then the dude reached out to him. Like, that's a little different. Now he's making it sound like he was in there with like a mission, like he was going in there as the fucking vigilante and was finally going to expose him, which is completely different from the narrative that he started with in the original post. He had also recently been banned and had only just been unbanned like less than a week ago, and then all of this happens. Like, it's just so many things in this story seem so strange. And then to, like, on that same night talk about, like, how do I delete videos on my hard drive, talking about, like, I need to scrub the hard drive, every video needs to go, someone quick help me, I need to get rid of all these videos. That doesn't strike me as someone who's, like, actually panicking about all of the accusations. That strikes me as someone that's trying to farm karma and attention out of this. It really does seem like the behavior of a troll, like an extremely edgy, really misguided troll. I mean, because now there's, like, articles about it that are talking about his alleged pedophilic behavior that he's exhibited, you know, over the course of like the last 5 or 6 hours. Those articles have been coming up. So it's like a really bad idea if this really was the plan. But overall, I just wanted to talk about this because for some reason I was mentioned in it, or at least people perceived that I was mentioned in this. So I at least wanted to talk about it and give like the full breakdown of everything going on. The whole situation's fucked up no matter what is actually going on here. And if everything from the LSF post is true and that's exactly how it all happened, then this is an extremely serious case where this guy needs to be off of Twitch ASAP, as well as have some kind of investigation done, because this is some really fucked up shit. I just wanted to talk about it, and yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Do you know this man? He may look like a default character in a Warhammer 40k Space Marine game, but he's very real and has become a very real boogeyman to the music industry. He was recently arrested on a series of charges, and they're basically treating this guy like Cobra Commander for what he's done. He stole directly from music distributors, and the way that he was able to do this, make off with upwards of $10 million in royalties over the course of 7 years, is through a really interesting scheme that I imagine a lot of others are doing behind the scenes, and it's something the music industry themselves also does in broad daylight. But he got slapped hard for it. So what he did is he created a lot of AI songs and flooded streaming platforms with them, and then had tens of thousands of bot accounts perpetually streaming those songs that he owned, and he would collect royalties from all of those botted stream numbers. His name is Michael Smith. Even his name sounds AI generated. But you want to know what AI could never generate? Goof juice. It's the best flavor ever made. It's actually perfection. And AI can't do that. Also, GamerSupps right now is having a big special where you can get free shipping to anywhere in the world using code MOIST. So pick up some goof juice. Best flavor ever. GamerSupps.gg/moist. And he's getting his ass spread open here by the FBI now. So the FBI assistant director said, the defendant's alleged scheme played upon the integrity of the music industry by a concerted attempt to circumvent the streaming platform's policy. I love how they just unironically said the integrity of the music industry. What integrity? What kind of fucking laughable joke is that? No such thing. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the music industry is guilty of botting numbers as well. But that's different. It's totally epic when the music industry does it for themselves. That's just swag-style business, baby. The FBI remains dedicated to plucking out those who manipulate advanced technologies to receive illicit profits and infringe on the genuine artistic talents of others. As alleged, Michael Smith fraudulently streams songs created with artificial intelligence billions of times in order to steal royalties. Through his brazen fraud scheme, Smith stole millions in royalties that should have been paid to musicians, songwriters, and other rights holders whose songs were legitimately streamed. Today, thanks to the work of the FBI and the career prosecutors of his office, it's time for Smith to face the music. You know, the guy that said that had the biggest fucking smirk on his face. That was his mic drop moment where he put the sunglasses on. I also couldn't help but actually scoff when they said, with a straight face, that he took money away from the artists that would have been paid through these streaming platforms. Brother, look around. The musicians make the littlest piece of that pie. The actual entities that make the lion's share of the money through streaming platforms for music are distributors, publishers, and labels. The actual creative, the artist behind the work, they get the tiniest cut of that cake. They get a urinal cake more than anything. They just get served little dog shits on a plate. They don't see most of that money in the first place. As someone who uses Spotify for our music project, The Gentle Min, I can tell you firsthand, the Spotify royalties for the artist, 2 thumbs way down. Boo, boo, big boo, throw tomatoes. The main people hurt by his scheme were the AI-generated zombies that run the music industry. The music industry was the one that was directly affected the most. I do think there is an argument and a strong case to be made that because he was pumping so many streams to his songs, he was taking some of that marketing, like advertisement money, away from other artists because those ads were instead getting played on his streams that weren't real. So I do think he did end up taking some money away from some of the other artists on the platform. But the main people that were affected was just the music industry directly. He's not like a hero or anything, but it's hard to feel sympathy for the victim here because of how corrupt the music industry is. Now, the way he did this, I think, is pretty interesting, and it's something that I think a lot of other people are doing to a lesser scale than Smith was. So to carry out the scheme, he created thousands of bot accounts on music streaming platforms, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and then used software to make the accounts constantly stream the songs he owned. Smith estimated that he could generate 661,000 streams per day, which would get him 1.2 million a year, but he wanted to avoid streaming it all to a single song because he recognized that that would be pretty suspicious and would probably get the kibosh put on his operation pretty quick. They'd find it. So he then identified the need for thousands of songs that he could pump these fraudulent streams into because it would keep the number low enough because it'd be spreading the 660,000 streams a day across thousands of songs. So it wouldn't really be setting off anyone's alarm bells. But if all of it filtered into just 1 or 2 songs, now that's what I call butthole 28, getting 660,000 streams per day, someone's going to notice and start to piece together that, something's a little fishy here. So that's when he turned to some co-conspirators about needing to get a ton of songs fast. And there's nothing faster than AI. What I find really surprising, though, is that this is in 2018. So this is very primitive AI. And he contacted a chief executive officer of an AI music company, and together they generated hundreds of thousands of songs for this. The names that the AI spit out were pretty trash except for one, Calm Baseball. That name bangs. That right there, I could see that name in lights. Calm Baseball, now performing at Madison Square Garden. Like someone's got to take that. It's too good to just let wither and die, to fade away. But that's the strategy in a nutshell. So he created tons of fake artists, tons of fake music, and tons of fake streams, and collected a lot in royalties from it. Now, I think there is a ton of people doing this. I think there are a lot of people that aren't flying as close to the sun as Michael Smith did with over $10 million that they're raking in. Michael Smith was going fast and loose here, going hog wild with the amount of money he was making from this, but I think there are a large number of people that are doing this exact thing with smaller numbers. Because Michael Smith would have never been caught if he didn't make so much from it. And I'm sure every single one of you watching this, if you use Spotify, you've stumbled across one of these AI cesspools, like this fucking latrine of AI generated music, and some of it's got hundreds and thousands of listens to it. I think those accounts are doing exactly what Michael Smith did, but instead of making off like Scrooge McDuck with 1.2 million a year, they're probably doing something smaller like $100,000 or $200,000 a year through this same technique in order to stay invisible to the upper echelon of the music industry. That's my guess. And if I'm wrong about that, I don't think I will be for long, because now that this story has blown up, I think there are going to be tons of copycats that are going to do this exact same thing. Bots have become so prevalent. I know this gets tossed around all the time with like dead internet theory and all of that, but unironically, the data has shown more often than not, the people you interact with aren't people at all. They're not blood, flesh, cringe, and cum. They are bots. And a lot of the things and content you consume doesn't even come from humans either. It comes from bots. So it's one of those things where if it's not already happening in a big way on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all that, It's going to very soon. Now, in the case of Michael Smith, he's being charged with wire fraud conspiracy, wire fraud and money laundering conspiracy, and could face a maximum of 20 years in prison per count. And I've got a hunch that the music industry is going to do everything in their power to make an example out of Michael Smith to try and scare people away from emulating what he's done. I think they're going to throw the book at him to make it a deterrent from copycats. Because if more and more people start doing what Michael Smith was, the music industry is going to be in some deep doo-doo. It's a very hard thing for them to combat against. Like, look at how long Michael Smith got away with it. And again, the only reason he got caught is just because of how much money he was pulling in. But if people stay at lower amounts that they're making from it, I don't think they have the ability to find all of them. So I think they're very scared of this becoming a bigger problem for them. And I think they're going to do everything in their power to fuck Michael Smith. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's it. See ya. I know this isn't my usual setup, but don't panic. This is not a cause for alarm. I'm actually here by choice. What you're looking at is hours of hard work. For about a year and a half now, I've been teasing on stream that I'm finally going to get the motivation to set up my streaming room and make it look really fucking cool, like a beautiful gamer's wet dream. And take a look. Did I lie, huh? I went from one empty room to another. It's like Squidward when he goes to that place to be all alone. So yeah, I just haven't felt like finishing this room today, but I will pretty soon. Maybe in another year and a half, we'll see. But we're here now, and I want to talk about something pretty important, and it actually has to deal with something that I was personally involved with. It has to do with Artesian Builds. That's the company that built all of the PCs that I've used and have at the warehouse for my friends to use for all of the editing and all of the content production we do. I'm sure by now you've all seen the clips as well as read the headlines. Artesian Builds really fucked themselves in the ass. They put their own dick in their butt, and now, as of today, they're pretty much no longer a company. They're officially dead and buried. But how did we get here? What happened? Artesian Builds would always be streaming their latest builds, where they'd interact with their community as well as do giveaways and shit like that. And a little over a week ago, their CEO went on stream during a giveaway, and when the giveaway winner was announced, he checked their profile and deemed them too small to actually earn the PC. I'm not going to play the clips, they're very hard to sit through, but their CEO was just going on and on about them being super small and not really benefiting the company, and then insinuating that their community isn't supportive or all kinds of just horrible shit. It was like a full-blown supervillain monologue. And not only is it extremely embarrassing and just downright fucking disgusting, but it's also borderline illegal. You can't just not honor a giveaway for no reason. You know, I can't run a giveaway and be like, hey, I'm giving away a water bottle of my spit or a jar of my farts, and then I announce the winner. I'm like, actually, this guy's kind of weird. He's a little stinky. I'm not going to give it to him. You can't do that. It's just fucking bad. And that's exactly what he did. He did it in a super condescending and aggressive tone. It really felt like he was personally insulted that the winner of the giveaway wasn't as large as he would have liked. So he was like really mean and nasty about it. He came across like spiteful, and he was delivering all of this as if he was in like the theater club doing some kind of show. It's like in the thespian troupe, he was given an assignment to act as a comically evil CEO, and he aced it. Because after doing this, he sank the whole company. They speed ran bankruptcy here. The company is, like I said, pretty much officially gone now. Around 50 or so employees have lost their jobs. And it all stemmed from this. This wasn't just like a combination of things. This was solely the CEO making a fucking fool out of himself and his company on this live stream during this giveaway. And then, of course, after this came out, a few other things were revealed, like apparently the way they were doing taxes may not have been up to code. I don't know a whole lot about that. That's alleged, but it is alleged that their business license or whatever was revoked and assets were frozen and shit like that. I'm not too sure there, but you can trace all of it back to this live stream, this fucking blunder here. They got scholars mated by their own CEO. They speed ran dead company all because of this one live stream fail. It honestly would have been less detrimental to the company if Noah, the CEO, had just gone on stream and goatsied himself, just full-blown spread his asshole at the camera like, hey, PC fans, you wanted a new PC build? Well, how about a look at my colon instead? And then just spread his cheeks apart. The company might even still be around in that case. Artesian Builds was a company that grew off of partnering with creators as well as just creating a community around their personalities. Like they streamed every build, they streamed pretty much every day, and they signed with pretty much every streamer on the fucking planet. They worked with the big boys like OTK, Mr. Beast, Nick Merckx, and everyone like that. And they had built a level of trust and a community around them. So when Noah does something like this, it completely breaches that. No creators want to associate with them anymore. So when the creators left, the consumers left, and Artesian Builds was left with their dick in their hand. They had nothing they could do anymore. It genuinely destroyed the whole company. Like I mentioned, I was partnered with Artesian Builds. I signed with them like over 2 years ago or somewhere in that ballpark. When I was like first with them, they had like 10K followers on Twitter and like 40 viewers per stream on Twitch. And they reached out to me and they just struck me as such professional and nice people. They were super sweet. And they obviously knew what they were doing because their builds slapped. I never had an issue with any of their builds or anything. And everyone I talked to, I didn't get any bad vibes from. And I even talked to Noah a couple times and I never once got the impression that he was like this, like what you saw on stream. So when this happened, I was equally as shocked and upset as everyone else. But I think it's important that people realize that there was like 50 or so employees at Artesian Builds. It wasn't just like the Noah show. So when he sank the company, 50 or so people lost their fucking jobs. And some of them, it was their passion. Like they loved it. There's one guy at Artesian Builds in particular that I'm not going to mention any names, but he was actually the one who came up with the giveaways in the first place. And the whole idea behind it is he just wanted to give high-end PCs to people that might not have been able to afford them and just give it to anyone of any size. That was the whole idea behind the giveaways in the first place. The CEO, Noah, didn't actually create the giveaways. It was this guy who came up with the whole idea just to like give shit away and like have a fun community that can just win PCs. And what happened is Noah took that and went fucking wild and wacky, full-blown insano style madman. He went off book going rogue and had this meltdown about it, which ruined everything. But again, it's important people realize there was a lot more people at Artesian Builds than just Noah. Noah ruined it for a lot of people who now don't have a job. And it only took a week. So it's not like a lot of those people have a backup plan either. So I really find the whole situation to be extremely sad. There's no excuse for what the CEO did, and especially with what he did after this happened. When this initially broke, he went to Twitter on the Artesian Builds Twitter account, and there were statements made that were just so tasteless. Basically, instead of apologizing when this got pointed out to them, they had like a 4-tweet long thing that I'm not going to show here, but basically what it boiled down to them was saying, what it boiled down to was them saying, "Oh, we were doing one of our normal dope-ass epic PC giveaways on stream, and things got a little weird, and I'm sorry you guys made yourselves mad about it, but just remember, we're doing some fucking incredible PC giveaways on our Twitch stream all the time, so we're fucking awesome. You guys made yourselves mad, and we're sorry for that. But yeah, back to epic giveaways." It was a non-apology, and they were just patting themselves on the ass for nothing. Like, it was so terribly handled. So, not only was the initial clip horrible, but the immediate response was as bad as it could have possibly been. Then they released another statement, like on an official document, or what was supposed to be an official document. But again, this seems like it came just directly from the CEO trying to not look as bad as he was looking currently. And again, missed the point entirely. It was more non-apology, and they still never even honored the giveaway. They still never even like tried to like publicly say, we will just give the winner the PC. They just kept trying to like push that to the side, like, there's so many rules, so much red tape, oh my god, so much was going wrong. The quantum physics of the Artesian Build formula for giveaways, it's, so many numbers weren't adding up, the calculations were wrong. So that didn't go over well. And then Noah made an apology video, which was even worse than the other two. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I bet if they did another one, it would have devolved into just full-blown Scatman. Like, it wouldn't even be on the same topic anymore. The apology video he released, again, I'm not going to show any clips from, but it was as generic as it gets. Terrible audio mixing. It sounded like actual garbage. Sounded like he was talking to you through a walkie-talkie. And he just seemed so mad. Like, just so genuinely mad that all of this became an issue, like failing to recognize the actual meat of the problem. And what made it even sillier is he let out a giant sigh, like a big sigh, and went, "Going forward, anyone of any size can win a giveaway." Like, he was just so fucking mad that now anyone of any size can win a giveaway. Even though in the past, anyone of any size could win the giveaway. That was the whole point of the fucking giveaway, is that anyone can win it. But now that this became an issue, he's like, fine. Anyone can win one, I guess. And then, like, kicks like dirt or something. Like, he just seemed so fucking upset. And the worst thing was, like, now he has to say that anyone can win a PC. It's like, again, I'm getting a little lost. It couldn't have been handled worse. The initial situation here was horrible on stream, no excuse for it whatsoever, and then the way it was handled afterwards could genuinely not have been worse. It was an absolute carnival of disaster. Just an overall really sad situation for so many people that were employed by Artesian or worked with them. I just wanted to talk about it because I was personally invested in this, obviously, and it just sucked to see it unfold like this, and it's something that I feel needs to be talked about. It's also like the only instance I can think of a multi-million-dollar company actually closing its doors because of a single horrible decision made on a live stream. Just an overall wild week for Artesian builds, and yeah, just wanted to talk about everything there. That's about it. So yeah. I've stayed silent on this topic for too long because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but you know what? Maybe a little tough love is what you need. Maybe a nice firm spank on the bottom is exactly what you're missing right now, and you know what? I'm here to give you that fiery kick in the keister. I'm sure you've all heard of the Mandela effect. It's very well known now. The Mandela effect, for those that aren't aware, is the phenomenon where a large group of people all share the same false memory. The biggest example of this is actually where the name comes from, Nelson Mandela. Well, I mean, Nelson Mandela is real. It's not like the false memory was his existence. Nelson Mandela was very real, but it's named after the time where a large group of people thought that Nelson Mandela died in prison, when in reality he didn't. But there was such a massive number of people who all swore that they remembered hearing or reading that Nelson Mandela died while in prison. But that just didn't happen. So the Mandela effect refers to this phenomenon where a large number of people all collectively share the same false memory. It's just super fascinating, and over the last like 8 or 9 years, it's becoming more and more common and more talked about. Like, here's an example of one I just saw on Twitter the other day. Cheez-Its. And I'm still saying it wrong. Cheez-Its never existed. They have always been Cheez-It, not plural. I always remember the box being Cheez-Its with the Z at the end. In school, we always referred to them as Cheez-Its, like, oh, what are you snacking on? I'm just having some Cheez-Its. Jonathan just choked on a whole bunch of Cheez-Its and ended up in the hospital sending prayers to his family. You know, like, we always referred to them as Cheez-Its, so it's deeply ingrained in me that when I talk about them, I use the plural. But they've never been Cheez-Its. It's always been Cheez-It. But this isn't one that I'm super passionate about. This one's entirely possible that I was just a dumb, stupid, milk-drinking, glue-sniffing kid and just got it wrong and never bothered to correct it. But there is one that I am extremely passionate about, and that's the Berenstain Bears. I made a whole video on this like 5 or 6 years ago now, I don't even remember, going into this giant rabbit hole of Berenstain Bears. But that never existed, apparently. It's always been Berenstain, which I still, to this day, refuse to believe. There is some tomfoolery in the quantum realm going on right now, because I very, very distinctly remember writing book reports on the Berenstain Bears, and I was corrected when I used stain, because as a kid, the word stain was a word I knew. You know, I'd fucking shit stain my britches, my parents would talk about stains, I knew the word stain. So Berenstain Bears is what made more sense to me at the time as opposed to steen. So on my reports, I remember I wrote stain and was corrected to writing steen. I know it was steen, I still very much believe that, but it's apparently always been stain, another example of the Mandela effect. But why am I talking about this today? It's not mainly to focus on all the big ones like Berenstain versus Berenstain and all that shit. It's because there's actually some Mandela effects revolving around me on the internet that I just want to clear up. And this might be mind-blowing to some people, but it's time I finally wake you up and break you out of the simulation so that way you can actually begin to live in reality, knowing full well that it's the truth. There are so many people that firmly believe, would swear on a stack of Bibles, that I made a video on the ShamWow. They believed that I made the real ShamWow video, an infomercial dub for the ShamWow. This is a belief that people have held for years now, And I'm telling you, I never did. I promise you, I never did. But I still, daily on Twitch, will see a few messages or even have someone subscribe, like resub on Twitch with a message saying, I've been following you ever since you made that video on the ShamWow a decade ago. I've been following you for decades since you uploaded the ShamWow infomercial dub, something like that. And I do appreciate it. I sincerely tip my fedora to you, Quantum Time Traveler. But in this universe, I never made that video on the ShamWow that you swear you saw. In this godforsaken realm of the multiverse, it wasn't me who did that. But this is something that so many people swear by. And it got to a point, like between emails and Twitch chat, I had to check myself. I had to double check here just to make sure that I wasn't the one hitting the crack pipe. But I have reconfirmed yet again, I never made a ShamWow video. I never did a dub for the ShamWow or anything like that. What I think is happening here is people remember 13, 14 years ago, Djibouti Dubs posted a ShamWow dub, and it was really popular. In fact, Djibouti Dubs is what inspired me to do commercial dubs of my own, and the ShamWow is one of his most iconic. So I think what happened is people remember that ShamWow dub, and they remembered that I also used to do commercial dubs during that time. So they just started crossing wires. They started mixing the proton beams together, and they got their memories all fucked up and, you know, all cattywampus. But I also did do a video kind of similar to the ShamWow, which was the Real Mighty Thirsty video, which is an infomercial dub for a product that's similar to the ShamWow. So it's also possible that they're just mixing the name up. But when I point that out on stream occasionally, people will get like combative. Not mean or anything, but like, no, I really remember you saying these things about the ShamWow. And they'll list off like a joke or two that I've never told ever, and that isn't in the Mighty Thirsty video or in Djibouti Dubs video. So I don't know what to tell you. This is just a great example of memories not being the most reliable when it comes to accuracy and the truth. Over time, things just start getting all fuzzy and blurred, and then you end up with false memories, which is what the Mandela effect is all about, like the unreliability of memories. Unless we're talking about Berenstain versus Berenstain Bears, then we all know the truth is that it was Berenstain. Berenstain is a no-good, dastardly fraud, and I will stand by that till the end of time. Doctor Strange could peek into 1 billion universes and never find one where it's actually Berenstain. There is something wrong, and I truly believe it has always been Steen. But I digress. Anyway, back on topic. There's another big false memory that people have about me and my channel that I'd like to clear up as well. So, there's a large number of people that believe that my channel used to be named Critical, and somewhere along the way I changed it to penguinz0. For at least the last 3 years, I've gotten emails, and especially in Twitch chat, many messages asking why I changed the name of my YouTube channel. And I've never understood it because I've been very vocal about never changing my name across like the last decade. I made this channel in 2007. I was 13. It was a name that I just came up with because I liked penguins. And penguins spelled properly was taken. Penguins with a Z was taken. So penguins with a Z and a 0 was available, so I took it. There wasn't a whole lot of thought that went into it. It was just the brain of a toddler. And I liked penguins. I still like penguins. I think they're unbelievably cute. And that's all. And I never changed it. I never touched it. I also do have an explanation here for what could have happened. When I started doing commentary, which wasn't until like 2010, I always said, "What's up everybody, it's Critical." So the more times I repeated that over the course of like 8 years, the more people associated that name with the channel to the point where they probably stopped looking at the channel name and just assumed the channel name was Critical. But in reality, it never was. It has always been penguinz0. It's never ever been changed. However, I will say I did recently change the name of my second channel. I took it from Huge Charles to Moist Charlie Clips. This I have an explanation for. I changed it from Huge Charles because most people thought it wasn't an official account, so I had a lot of people spamming to stop uploading Charlie's content, even though it is officially my account. So in order to just make things more clear, I changed it to a name that people will obviously understand more as like an official channel. So yeah, that is now Moist Charlie Clips, and it has been for like a month or two now. Definitely go subscribe if you want to see more content over there. I really do genuinely find everything about the Mandela effect to be fascinating, just super interesting to think about, because there's no reason why so many people would collectively share the same memory that's wrong. Like, there are just so many people that swear by things that are just not correct. Like, for example, me and Cheez-Its and Berenstain Bears, which are apparently not accurate, but I vividly remember seeing them that way and reading them and writing them that way. And so many others like me have those same memories, but we're all wrong apparently. So it just seems so weird that a lot of unrelated people from all different parts of the world can share the exact same memory that happens to be false. I don't know, I just find that to be super odd. And when it comes to my channel and the Mandela effects surrounding some of my content, it's super weird because now I'm on the other side of it. So, again, to tie it back to Berenstain, as everything always does end up back at that argument, that whole debacle, the people behind the Berenstain Bears franchise, the whole property, they can't understand why anyone would have ever thought it was Steen. Since there's never been any confusion around it, it has always been Stain. All of their marketing has been Stain. Everything has always been Stain. So they don't really get why anyone would have gotten it wrong, especially all of the people that have, like me. And now that I'm in this position, I can't understand how anyone ever thought I did a ShamWow video or how anyone ever thought I had changed my YouTube channel name. I don't know how those things started or where those memories came from because, from my perspective, none of that was even close to being true. I never even considered making a ShamWow video, and I'd never even remotely considered changing my YouTube name. Yet so many people really think I did both, or one or the other, I suppose. And I don't know, I can't wrap my head around where it comes from or how that shit starts, but it's just super interesting to me. And I'm sure the Mandela effect is something that all of you have experienced to some degree, or at least understand to some level. And I just thought it'd be something interesting to talk about today because it applies to my channel as well. So yeah, hopefully this cleared up some confusion or, blew your mind or something in some way. That's about it. See ya. Woo-wee! So I've heard a lot of negative things about a new HBO Max show. Or, excuse me, pardon, not HBO Max, Max. I don't want to be thrown in jail for using the wrong nomenclature there. I heard a lot of buzz about this new Max show called The Idol being a super stinker. The show's got like a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes and low scores across the board from pretty much anyone with eyeballs. And to me, it just didn't seem like an entertainingly bad show. I watched the trailer and it just looked like a snooze fest, and then I looked at the official poster and it just looks like the woman's wearing an actual orange rind for a dress. It looks CGI'd, so I thought the main complaint was going to be that it's low budget or poorly put together, but apparently that's not the case. So I read a few of the reviews and I watched a few reviews as well, and everything people were talking about actually did make it sound fun bad. So I decided to do what I love to do. I dove into the septic tank, fucking cannonballed into the deep end in order to swim around in the sewage, just to see if it was fun bad. And now Ace reporter Charles is here on the front lines to give you the verdict after watching 2 episodes. It's sometimes fun bad, but mostly just bad. The reviews led me to believe that there was a menu here that was serving something entertaining. So I came into the restaurant and I ordered the poop, but I got served the pee. There is occasionally moments where I get what I was hoping to order, which is entertainingly bad moments and content, but 9 times out of 10 what I'm getting with the show, at least through the first 2 episodes, is just a big fucking plate of nothing. It's just boredom, empty calories. I'm going to get into it deeply here in just a moment, but just to give you a little context for the production, it was apparently already plagued by controversy before the first episode even aired. There was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama and a lot of like really turbulent changes and a lot of shit going on. So a lot of people already wrote off the show and put it 6 feet under, put the tombstone on top of it before it even aired, just because of all of this drama that was happening behind the scenes. They thought there was no way that it would actually come out and be decent. But I'm not here to really talk about all of that stuff behind the scenes because I went into this show blind, not knowing any of it, and it's still bad. So let's dive in. Episode 1. Now, this is where I'm immediately talking about the show just being like eating fucking styrofoam where you get nothing out of it for a long time. For the first 40 minutes, unless you're really just like, auga, titties, there's not a whole lot of like interesting things happening. Now, I mention boobies here because within the first 5 minutes, they're immediately going into just showing you tits, and it even becomes a plot point. a plot point that they kind of harp on for a good chunk of screen time, actually, where the main character Jocelyn's doing a photo shoot, and then she just, derobes herself to show full bare breasts, and she just wants to let those honkers go bonkers, but there's an intimacy coordinator on set who's telling her she can't do that because it hasn't been approved by the intimacy board, the executive branch of booby coordinators, and they get mad at him for trying to put the kibosh on that because she wants to just let it all hang out, and he's saying, no, we really need approval, it's how these things go, and he's just doing his job, and he's being framed as a villain here. Like, the main character Jocelyn's getting mad at him, her staff is getting mad at him. Eventually, they just try and scheme on how to get him out of the equation, so they lock him in a bathroom. So I just found that pretty interesting that its first major plot point, I suppose, is just titties. Just underlined titties. How are we going to get people hooked on our show? Obviously, the tried and true method. We're going fucking caveman brain. Show them the milkers. And that's the whole first part there, really. That's actually the first instance of conflict or anything really, exposition, which was an interesting idea, an interesting call to make. But yeah, like I said, if you're not just going into this for softcore porn reasons and your eyes popping out of your sockets like a cartoon character when you see titties, I just really don't think there's a whole lot to get invested in within the first 40 minutes of episode 1. Now, to quickly blast you here with the cliff notes, episode 1 focuses mainly on our main character Jocelyn, who is a massive pop star, but has recently fallen on hard times due to some tragic events that have happened in her life. She's had some very tragic things happen, like the loss of her mother, and they keep mentioning that she had a psychotic breakdown at one point. And 2, she just recently had one of her pictures leak, and it's not a picture that you'd necessarily be hanging on your refrigerator. It's not exactly a good photo. It's a picture with cum on her face. So she got glazed, and the picture surfaced online through a leak, and it became the #1 talked about thing in the world. So people are making fun of her, and everyone's talking about, Jocelyn, the mega pop star, all cummy faced now. So now she's tackling that stress on top of the stress she's already experiencing through everything she's been through. And she now has a single coming out for the first time in a year, and she's not super proud of it. Everyone's encouraging her that it's an amazing song, but she herself is a little on the fence about the real quality of it. That's kind of the first half in a nutshell. They were also playing a little game of keep away with Jocelyn's phone, so that way she wouldn't see the cum face picture and find out that it leaked and she's been trending online all day. And eventually she does find out, they do tell her, and she takes it like a champ. She says, it could be worse. And she's not wrong, it could have been worse. That could have been like a full-blown goatsy situation, right? So she takes it on the chin, and then right after that decides that she wants to go to a club. So her and her friends go to a club where she meets The Weeknd, Tedros. So Tedros is the owner of the club that she attends, and as he's, playing music, he calls her out. He's like, holy shit, that's Jocelyn! We've got to dance. So they dance, and then immediately fall in love, basically. They start grinding, they go to a stairwell where they're about to do a little canoodling, but then one of Jocelyn's friends, who's also her assistant, it kind of kills the mood, but they still got close. They exchanged contact information like it was a goddamn car accident, and they go their separate ways. The following night, Jocelyn is talking to her best friend / assistant, and says that she wants to bring Tedros over, and so she does. And now finally, after 45 grueling minutes, we get to the part where it gets fun bad, entertainingly stinky. We spent 45 minutes on the fucking Oregon Trail here going through all kinds of, unpleasantries, and now we're finally to a point where we can put a smile on our face. Before going into it, I would like to say that I'm actually surprised now, after watching the first 45 minutes, at how low the ratings are for it. Even though I found it uninteresting, I didn't find it to be like the most horrible show ever, like a lot of the reviews would have you believe. The cinematography is actually pretty good. It's shot well. Like, the show is well made. The biggest problem with the show is that it's uninteresting, and it's focusing on the worst parts of its narrative. It's focusing on the most unlikable parts of what the show is crafting. So it's putting all of the focus in the wrong areas, which I imagine most people are just tuning out for. So they just don't have any investment in it, and it makes it hard to actually care about what's going on. But as a show, I don't even think it's that horrible, like as bad as the reviews are making it seem. It's just fucking boring. That's by far its biggest sin for the first 45 minutes. But now, we get to Tedros coming into the equation. So he shows up to her house, and I can't show you the clip, but I will show you a screenshot. Tedros walks up to this house like he's the goddamn Terminator. Look at the atmosphere here. It's like a scene out of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, this shit is like when SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs went to the cemetery to get the #1 drink hat. Like, it is haunting. I don't know why he shows up like this. He's got a fucking trench coat on. He's like an assassin out of John Wick. Like, it is wild that he rolls up like this. And he goes into the house, too, with this same energy. Now, I had to take that picture with my phone because on Netflix you can't do like a screen cap, or at least I don't know how. I'm too fucking stupid, I guess. But basically, the doors swing open, and they're really like squeaky doors, like something out of a horror movie. And he's like the fucking Undertaker. He just like slowly walks up, and he continues that persona, like this haunting presence, even once he gets to the house. It is so weird. So much so that the assistant, Jocelyn's assistant, is like, oh, this guy's got weird vibes. So she's clearly like a little perturbed by it as well. And he just keeps it going. It's like a 5 or 6 minute scene of him rolling up and going into the house where he's like creepily playing the piano while looking at Jocelyn's assistant like dead in the eyes, staring a hole through her fucking soul. And then he pours himself a drink, and then he's like checking his teeth in the mirror, licking himself, playing around with his trench coat, and then he starts sniffing her pillows, just actually taking a huge huff of the fumes from her pillows. It's so goofy, like beautifully goofy. Now, while he's doing all of this, Jocelyn's getting ready because she's very excited to have sex with him. And then she goes, meets him, and then wants to show Tedros her song. She wants an honest opinion and says that he's enough of an asshole to be honest with her. So she plays the song for him, and he says he likes it, but he doesn't believe her. To which she's like, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. What do you mean you don't believe me? He says he doesn't believe that she knows how to fuck. So we're getting very 50 Shades of Grey here. That gave me the same tingles as the 50 Shades of Grey movie when Christian says, I don't make love, I fuck. It's so skin-crawlingly cringe. So he's like, I don't believe you know how to fuck. And she's like, I know how to fuck. And then he like takes her robe off, and I shit you not, wraps the robe around her head and then ties it around her neck. So it's like a manhunt fatality. So he's got the robe over like a paper bag that he's trying to like strangle her with, basically. And then he gets out a knife and he's like, don't panic, I know you heard the knife. And then he's like, open your mouth. And then he cuts a hole for her mouth so she can breathe. It's so fucking silly. And then the episode concludes with, after cutting the hole in the mouth, he says, now you can sing. It's super silly, and I neglected to mention a very important point with an ice cube that happens right before Tedros puts the robe over her head like he's about to waterboard her. He takes an ice cube, and he like runs it down her leg and onto her like pussy and all that. And that ice cube is actually a major supporting character, believe it or not. Well, not like that single ice cube, it melted, God rest its soul, rest in peace. But ice cubes in general. Because she became so inspired by that sexual experience in the ice cubes that it kind of become her vessel to tap into her more creative side. So the single she's releasing is about sex. Like, it's about being a freak, getting real grimy. And when he said that he didn't believe her in the song because her vocals didn't convey that she knew how to be a freak and have sex, the ice cube brings out that freak side of her, I guess. In the next episode, she does a remix of that song because she said, you know what, the previous one wasn't me, this one's more me, and she plays it for her whole team to get their opinions. And the song just actually sounds like porn. Like, the entire intro is just moaning and deep breathing and shit like that. It sounds like you just walked in on somebody in the masturbatorium going crazy. So her staff wasn't super thrilled because it just sounds like they're listening to porn. And she gets so upset that she goes back to try and remix it. And in order to get back in the zone of being a sexual expert, she has a glass of ice cubes nearby that she keeps taking from and rubbing on her vagina and then like squeezing at her neck in order to get back into that moaning sexual zone, which I thought was so silly. Like that made me giggle a lot. So this is when the show's at its best in terms of like entertainingly fun bad shit. Like having to kegel some ice cubes in order to do enough deep breathing on your track in order for it to sound sexually stimulating enough. What a brilliant idea. Now, episode 2 reveals like the deeper plot elements here. Tedros was already kind of framed as someone who's probably going to be a bit shady in the grand scheme of things, and episode 2 drives it home. It turns out Tedros has a label of his own, and pretty much everyone from that club is in on it, and it seems, it's leading audience to believe that Tedros is getting close to Jocelyn for his own selfish gain as well as the gain of his label. So big plot twist moment was one of Jocelyn's dancers, whom is also one of her friends, is part of Tedros's friend group, and they actively fuck, and this whole thing was actually a setup. So that's episode 2. Tedros gets even closer to Jocelyn and eventually floats the idea of moving into her house, which she's all on board with. Meanwhile, Jocelyn's best friend is getting a little fishy once she learns that Tedros owns this label. She's starting to connect dots that this might not exactly be the most trustworthy person. Now, that's all of the plot shit. It kind of interesting, I will say. Like, I think that's an interesting narrative play. However, once again, I think they just focus on the most boring parts in the episode. But this one had a lot of fun bad moments, at least sporadically placed throughout. It feels like this show wants to be 50 Shades of Grey, like great value version, like diet 50 Shades of Grey. So it has these really weird moments, like genuinely just like baffling moments where Tedros and Jocelyn are about to fuck. And she's like, put that bathrobe over me again, or put the robe over my face again. So he like blindfolds her with the bathrobe thing. And then she starts like getting ready to fuck, but then Tedros goes behind a chair and he just starts instructing her like a drill sergeant. And it goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes, probably more than that, probably closer to like 5 or 6 minutes of him just giving her orders for things to do. So he's like, show me those titties, and I'll move the titties around. And then I shit you not, he even says, imagine my cock in your throat, and now you're choking on it, and now you're spreading your little pussy. It's so weird. So the weekend, Tedros keeps saying these things to her, and she's like mimicking it in front of him like it's a stage play, and it just goes on for so long. And then one of his friends that he brought over is watching in the mirror, and she starts doing the same thing. So Tedros is like a fucking sexual savant shaman. Like he's like fucking mind controlling women around him just by existing. So yeah, that's some good goofy fun bad shit. There's also a scene where like Tedros is instructing one of his friends how to fuck. So he has like a shock collar on his dick, and he's like, all right, now you need to look like you're ready to fuck that girl. And he's like, no, not good enough. Shocks him. He's like, ah! Like he's like, oh, okay, I'll get more into it. And he's like, no, not good enough. And then says, remember, you're not a human, you're a star. And then fucking shocks his wiener again. So the episode gets fucking crazy. Like it's going hog wild here, but it's all on the stuff that I don't think most people would care about here, like the softcore porn elements of it. I guess it's not even really softcore porn. It's just like straight up porn where they don't show you most of it. Actually, which is pretty much softcore. Yeah, it's just like all focused on like the sexual parts of it as opposed to the actual interesting narrative bits, like the whole setup plan as well as Jocelyn's friend who's now getting in a position where the label's losing trust in Jocelyn, but her friend who is the dancer can also sing, and it's looking like they're going to replace Jocelyn with her, and she is the one that's part of Tedros's friend group, so that will benefit Tedros and all of them. Like, there are interesting elements at play, but they don't actually get the spotlight. It's all on the, make your titties bounce for me. Yeah. Good titties bouncing. Good shit. And then spanking her ass and, like, jiggling her butt cheeks. Like, that's not very interesting. That's laughable. Now, there is another section of this episode that I actually thought was very interesting. It's Jocelyn's music video. She's doing a music video for the song, and it's not going well, which is why they're about to replace her with her friend. She just keeps doing the choreography over and over and over again, forcing them to restart. They're many hours over time, way out of schedule. because Jocelyn needs it to be perfect. She's still overcome with grief over the loss of her mother. This is the first music video she's done without her mother being there. And she's breaking down, she's crying, and she's going over the moves so many times that her legs are getting bloody, so they have to keep like fixing that with makeup. And it's actually conveyed in a pretty interesting way. The cinematography is good. Like, it is actually good. And then eventually she gets the perfect take. Everything was like fantastic, exactly what she wanted, but the camera was out of focus. So she had to do it again. And she didn't get it perfectly the 50th time around. So, like, it's actually a very interesting scene. Her staff coming in to try and lift her up, it's not working well. Her staff, you also start to wonder, do they even really care about Jocelyn, or are they just there because it benefits them? Like, all of that's actually kind of interesting, but it is not what the show seems to want to focus on, which I think is such a fucking misfire, and probably why so many people don't actually like the show, because I don't think many people care to see softcore porn. Like, you just type boobies in on Google and you'll get a million fucking OnlyFans links, right? Like, you're probably not tuning into this to get porn. At least I don't think most people would be. But yeah, once again, the episode does end up being overwhelmingly boring for the most part and uninteresting. Because again, it is focusing on like the worst parts of what the show's offering. But yeah. Oh, another thing. The characters feel really stiff a lot in this episode, even more so than episode 1. Some of these characters that come in here feel like actually phoned in performances. They didn't really care that much, which is kind of odd. I mean, especially for a show of this budget and this prestige. I mean, it's a fucking HBO Max show. So I would think that they'd really make sure all of the acting is fantastic, but there's a lot of times in here where I was like, damn, that just really didn't seem like they cared at all about this whole scene. But anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. It's only 2 episodes. Maybe it really gets better. You know, it really finds its footing in episode 3. I couldn't tell you, but I just wanted to at least give you all an update since I did watch it. And overall, I do think it was a waste of time. Like, I don't think the fun bad moments outweighed the overwhelming boredom or disinterest I had in the show. There's just very few fun, shitty moments that are sprinkled throughout the 2 episodes, and that just really wasn't worth it. So, yeah, that's really about it. See ya.
Hi, I bet you can't even tell that I have a mental illness. And that mental illness is called an addiction to bad movies. I can't help myself. I see every new horror movie that comes out. I've seen every single 2024 horror movie except for one. The one good one, apparently, which is Late Night with the Devil. I've seen every single other horror movie, and I double-checked. And I at this point, I don't even know why. Like, I know they're going to be awful going into them. And you all know I love bad movies, but I also know going into most of these that they're not going to be so bad they're good. They're just going to be a genuine, complete waste of time. So you have to wonder, am I possessed by some kind of dog shit movie demon that just somehow deep in my soul compels me to go waste money and time to see these on the big screen? Today I subjected myself to The Exorcism starring Russell Crowe. This one was really interesting. Not the movie itself, that was the furthest thing from interesting, but the concept of this movie fascinated me because last year, Russell Crowe was in a movie called The Pope's Exorcist, where he played another exorcist. So I thought this was like the extended Pope's Exorcist universe, but these 2 movies have no relation to one another. He played the same role twice. He said like King Neptune, that was so good I think I'll have it a second time. He fucking said, hey, where's second breakfast? I love playing the exorcist role. And at the end of The Pope's Exorcist, they set up like a Men in Black style universe where there's this group that goes and fights the demons that are possessing innocent humans. And it all happens in the shadows, behind closed doors, where God refuses to look. Well, I'm going a little far there, but basically they set it up as I'm assembling a team of elite exorcists. We gotta go kill all the demons. We gotta go fuck them in the face. So they conclude that movie with like this almost pseudo montage of like exorcists getting ready and setting up like a network to track possessions and all of that. I have expected Linkin Park's What I've Done to start playing, like the end of the Transformers movie when Optimus Prime makes a call out to the cosmos for more Autobots. I thought that was going to happen, but for exorcists. So this movie I went into really thinking that it tied into that universe. And can you believe my surprise when it turns out he's just playing the same role in a different way? And the movie's bad. But here's the really crazy thing. The whole movie's not bad. I actually thought almost the entire first half of the film was pretty decent. Like, it's not amazing by any means, but with all the slop that you get fed, like the fucking pigs we are in the movie theater seeing these horrible horror movies, it was at least a step above most of that. So the film's concept is they're filming a remake of the original Exorcist movie, which they treat like Voldemort. They don't name it, but they keep implying it, and they keep using the similar themes and scenes from the original Exorcist in a modernized way. So Russell Crowe gets the role of the Exorcist, who's going to perform the climactic final moment there. And he gets the role because the person prior to him got attacked by a demon on set and killed, and it led Russell Crowe, who was an actor struggling with alcoholism and drugs and just a really troubled past, to land this big position. And throughout the filming of the movie, more and more creepy, evil things keep happening as a demon has infiltrated Russell Crowe himself. And I actually really like the set here, where they have like this dollhouse, this open dollhouse that they're in filming the scenes, and Russell Crowe's struggling with the material, and the director's saying some really mean things to him, actually just talking shit like it's a League of Legends lobby, getting real toxic to try and bring out the best performance of him. His daughter also hates him because he's an alcoholic drug addict who abandoned her and her mother when the mother had cancer, and he was out apparently just getting high, getting drunk, and chasing pussy, as the director called it. So they set him up as like some irredeemable piece of shit who's doing everything he can to just get this last great performance in. Like, he really wants to nail this role, but just can't seem to do it. So as he's trying, he just keeps getting worse and worse. The demon infiltrates him deeper and deeper. And the performance from Russell Crowe is pretty good. Like, it actually seemed like he tried very hard in this role. The daughter's performance was really good too. Like, they actually tried to put their best foot forward for this movie, and it's such a shame that it all completely falls apart and wasn't worth trying for in the end. So, like I said, I do think the first half is at least decent. Like, I find it to be a compelling story that I haven't really seen before like this. It started off pretty self-aware, and then it completely lost that and fell into almost a parody of itself. But I will say, even in the first half, which is definitely the best part of the film, which I guess really ultimately isn't saying much. That's like saying the best part of a poop is when it comes out of your butt. It's like, okay, I guess. So, like, the first half, they still don't set up scares very well. They actually do build tension okay, but there's no real scare that happens or anything that ever comes from it with all the tension. They usually just take the cheapest way out with, like, the lamest jump scare ever, where it's just like a really quick loud noise of something that just kind of appears out of nowhere. So, like, example, Russell Crowe's getting, like, possessed. The daughter sees him just kind of standing, like, sleepwalking. She goes up to him, and they just stand there staring, or she just stands there staring at him for a second while he's doing this. And then all of a sudden he snaps out of it going, and it's like, okay, I mean, I guess. Like, they built up tension for, like, 3 straight minutes, only for that to be, like, the big payoff scare. And it's just very silly. Like, it just is. Like, that's silly. Like, you laugh at that, not go like, oh, jeez, jeepers. No one goes like, zoinks, you got me with that. It's just, oh, okay, loud noise startled me. That's a really silly loud noise. There's also just a lot of things in this movie that they kind of set in place and then do nothing with. So, like, the director, he's clearly a bad guy. He is a villain saying some heinous shit to Russell Crowe's character, Anthony, and he gets nothing for it. Like, the demon gets very upset at him, but then does nothing to kill him or, like, you know, give him any level of, like, comeuppance or anything, even though they really set it up like that was going to happen. It just doesn't. There's also a romance plot with his daughter that also just doesn't go anywhere. Like, I guess the only reason it's there is to show that not everything in her life is terrible, but it doesn't lead to anything, and they end up abandoning the relationship subplot. So, I feel like at some point, apparently this movie went through a lot of delays. I feel at some point they just said, fuck it, we're going to Frankenstein this, we're going to cut something together the best we can and just send it. And it does feel that way. It's just very rushed, especially at the end. Also, Sam Worthington's in this movie. Huge actor. He has maybe 3 scenes. Why even bother putting him in this pile of shit? Like, maybe this is something he wanted to do because he was bored. He's like, oh, I see you guys are filming. Do you guys want me to do something with this? I mean, I've got like 3 hours to kill. You might... Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll come play that. Because he's actually on screen for maybe in total 45 seconds. And yet, in the beginning of the movie, they put his name there as like a prominent character. Like, I went in here under the impression like, oh, okay, maybe Sam Worthington's going to have a big role to play. He does not. Like, he has probably less screen time than I did in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. It's weird. Like, why even bother paying that amount of money for an actor of that caliber and that size? Now, anyway, let's get to the meatballs of the spaghetti here. Let's talk about that final act of the film, the second half. Hoo-wee. Yikes. So I've only really been talking about the first half here. The second half goes into the most generic horror movie I think I've seen all year. Like, it is actually so unbelievably generic, I have to wonder if they were laughing while filming it, just being like, man, this stinks, but we're getting paid for it. Just fucking run it. It does every possible cliche as quickly as possible. So Sam Worthington's character I mentioned, well, when Russell Crowe's character is getting way too deep into the possession, he starts like puking and coughing, he can't even do his line reading anymore. Director eventually just says, look, Sam, his name's not Sam in the movie, I already forgot what his name is. I actually don't even know if they named him in this movie. They probably forgot. But he eventually comes up to him and says, look, Sam Worthington, listen, Anthony can't do this role anymore, we need you to take it. And he goes, okay, I guess I'll take it. And then the next scene after he takes it, he's practicing his lines in front of a mirror, and Russell Crowe blasts through the mirror, grabs him by the neck, and glass shoots into his eye, killing him. But whatever. So the two girls end up recruiting a priest, well, a former priest, who was actually like a consultant on the set of the film. And they've been kind of keeping him up to date on what's going on with Russell Crowe this entire time. And then he's like, okay, time to dust off this old suit here and perform an exorcism. So then the three of them go to the movie set and they confront Russell Crowe. He's got the priest in a trance, and he's got the daughter's girlfriend in a trance, and then he's just like playing like goofy little games with her. So like there's a Bible on the ground, and the daughter's walking up to the Bible, she goes to pick it up, and then it just magically fucking whips to the other side. So then she goes over and then picks it up. It's like that scene out of SpongeBob with the dollar bill, where they throw a dollar bill out and then like yank it back. That's what he's doing with the Bible. So he's quite the prankster, I suppose. His name was like Moloch or something, I forgot. And then she starts reading from the Bible, and then Russell Crowe sits there and he's like, you don't believe those words, do you? I know you don't believe those words. And he just sits there like lecturing her, goes on like a monologue about why Russell Crowe's not worth saving. Why? Like, why are you even bothering to have this conversation? This is my biggest pet peeve about horror films, where like the evil demon entity gives the tools sometimes to the people fighting him. To, like, why? Why? Like, there's no self-preservation from the demons? What, they'd go through all this effort, this elaborate plan of possessing someone in all of these steps, just to allow the good guys to get all of the necessary tools while they watch. Like, this demon could have killed all of them. Why put them in a trance? Why let her get the Bible? Why let them do that, and you just sit there watching and sometimes laughing and giving a stupid speech? It's ridiculously dumb. It just shows that the writers have no idea on how to have like the humans combat the demon here. So they just rush through it with this cliche formulaic dog shit. So anyway, she starts reading from the Bible. He eventually goes over to her because it's not working, and he grabs her up, choking her, and then she puts a cross on his forehead, and he's like, ouch, oh, it burns, which snaps the other two out of their trance. And then eventually the priest is like, listen, take me instead. Give them Russell Crowe back. And the demon complies, so he then possesses the priest, and Russell Crowe snaps out of it. Russell Crowe then starts reading from the Bible, which bursts into flames, another classic horror movie trope. And he's like, the Lord forsakes you, clearly. You're irredeemable trash is what you are. But then the tables start to turn as he starts reciting the prayers from memory, and then the two girls behind him are saying, amen! And then the demon's like, no! Screaming. And Russell Crowe keeps his foot on the gas, saying all the holy words, and the two girls behind him going, amen, 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 and the demon's going, nah! Just squirming around. And then it eventually culminates with Russell Crowe taking that crucifix, taking the cross, and stabbing the old guy in the head, fucking instantly killing him. But then he goes in for round 2 and then stabs him up through the neck, literally impaling this fucking guy, which then sets him on fire and burns his body to ashes. You didn't even beat the demon, you just killed this guy. Keep in mind, he was, like, the priest was still there. Like, the demon was using his body as a vessel. They didn't just exorcise the demon, they murdered the man. In that case, you could have just called the police to come shoot him. It would have done the same thing. So they just fucking murder this guy, and that's their triumphant moment. It's so stupid. Like, the whole final act is so bad. It's so bad. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about this movie since I saw another trash horror film. It's not the worst horror movie of the year, but it's definitely a bad one. It's another absolutely horrible one to put into this very impressive 2024 for bad movies. That's really about it. See ya.